Thank you everybody for coming. I'm glad we could get a presenter for the work session. And with that, Jenny, do you need to introduce this, or should we just start our discussion?
I am happy to give a quick introduction if that helps Planning Commission.
Yeah, that'll help.
This work session is called based on a new application, a request from potential buyers of the Ben Lomond Golf Course, Fieldstone Homes, which we've got Jason Harris present here for this discussion. The Ben Lomond project MDA was originally adopted in June of 2021. And recently, the lender has been doing improvements on the project for the sewer and Millennium Park improvements. Several phases of the project have received final approval through the City Council under our old subdivision ordinance. But there are some changes that are being proposed to the master development agreement. And Jason, I believe, is going to go into as much detail as you'd like over those changes.
All right. Well, let's hear the changes. If you'd please come up and let us know
There we go.
what you're planning on changing.
I'm generally into stuff unless it's something my wife needs me for, and I'm always late this master.
Okay.
Just brings all of our
Microphone
commissioners
is
here
big.
now.
Oh, great. Maybe that'll be great. I don't have this really great memory where I can recall everything. So I know you're surprised at that, but it might be helpful if I just kind of touch on the high level things that are on my mind, or I can open up my laptop and I can go into the really details. Whatever you feel like is best for you, I'm happy to do that.
Well, let's start with a few high-level things.
That's what I'm thinking too.
So
And then we can dig
I
down
think
if we
one
need
of
to.
if I just jump to kind of one of the big nuggets, right, is the land use plan. And some of the modifications that we propose in the document is some more flexibility about how that plan works. So the idea is that there is a vesting associated with the master development agreement, and that vesting is for 664 units, right?
649 units are vested. The other 15 are contingent. Those aren't vested as it stands.
But perhaps, right? So there's a couple of different ways to read it, and I'm okay taking, Nathan, I'm okay taking that version that you've just outlined. What we're doing is we're saying, hey, actually, there are some ways in the plan that we can actually take advantage of all of the units, which we think is important to the deal itself. So in our proposal back, we say, hey, like there's some areas like that floodplain area, which is, I think, identified as this excluded area in the master development agreement. And we can put the clubhouse in that location as one of the alternatives. Or we can use those units and we can just put them somewhere else in the community where, the whole idea is that, hey, if there's this sort of vesting associated with it, we're just saying, hey, at the end of the day, if we need to make some modifications to the plan, as long as we don't exceed the total number of vested units, we're hoping that you'll work with us on that. So the proposed changes in the master development agreement take that stance, right? It broadens the outlook in that we're saying, hey, there is a vested number of units, and we need to follow the intent of the MDA, which is that we have all these sort of residential types and uses and things like that. And I'll make one other comment as it relates to the land use. The commercial area is another area that's come up in the conversation. And we've actually said, hey, we think it's a good idea to also allow for that to move around. And when we say move around, we think Highway 89 is a location where we think there may be some better, higher potential for viability of the commercial use. So flexibility in the land use plan is what we've proposed in the red line options. And happy to talk about that, because I know that's an area that's very sensitive
Yeah.
for you. And so, yeah, let's talk through it.
I just went to a training at a webinar this last week on town centers, and they're not supposed to be car-centered. So as part of the reason it's not on the highway is to get people in through that and through alternate transportation modes, not just they're driving there. Also, reading through this, you've taken out all of the timing and putting the commercial in there, but mixed use isn't mixed residential, it's commercial and residential. So without the commercial being committed to, are we actually still getting mixed use? And
good question.
moving the commercial around, we're not going to have that center point for the development. So I know
Okay, good.
the city's seen other,
No, but-
way before this came around, options for that, and they didn't even make it to us with the commercial on Highway 89 and just residential in the back, so.
Okay. Any other comments around that? I'm happy
I was just thinking, so as we kind of talked about this even during our last meeting, moving some of the commercial to the northern part, but on 89, were you also thinking that there would still be commercial in that center part? Or you're thinking just totally taking it all out and placing it on 89?
Great question. What I'm thinking is creating the flexibility in the plan to allow for what the market
Right.
is requesting. So Nathan, one thing to address a comment that you made, we're not asking to take the commercial out of the plan, right? We're saying we'd like the flexibility of putting the commercial where the market will want it to be. I think to step away from anecdotal things for a minute and just talk about facts as it relates to it, right? I did go back and I did do a little bit of homework, right? And I looked at, hey, what is under certain uses, what are the trip counts per day that are needed in order to attract certain types of businesses? And we looked at Chick-fil-A's and I can't remember all of them. Like maybe there was an Arby's in there. There was some local business type things and those sorts of things. What we found from both UDOT and from traffic studies is that the Highway 89 produces about 16,000 trips per day. 2000 North produces 500 trips per day. The requirement for a Chick-fil-A, right, is 35 to 50,000 trips per day, as just an understanding of what you need to underwrite to those things. What and maybe Chick-fil-A isn't what we want in the town center, but it just
With there being one on Pleasant View and one on 12th Street, you're not getting a Chick-fil-A right there anyway.
Right.
So.
yeah,
We're just,
that's right.
we're just,
Yeah, there's not going to be any drive-throughs in there either.
Yeah,
Usually,
understand I'm illustrating here, right?
So-
I haven't gone out and asked Chick-fil-A to come, but it's a good illustration of what's required, right? Now, if 2,000 is 500 trips per day, how many trips per day do we get on this interior road here, right?
well, when you've built out all of those 600 units, you're going to have at least 2 trips per day for all of the 600 units in there.
Yeah, so maybe we get to 600. Let's say we get to 1,000, right?
Easily over that.
We're like so far out of the range of traffic counts that would be helpful to sustain the commercial. So if we step back from this for a second and we say, what's the goal? Mm-hmm. I think the goal is to have a successful commercial component to the project, right? And so all I'm saying is, will you allow us the flexibility to look for how to make it the most successful? And when you have a major arterial road right next to the project that might give us that opportunity, I'm just saying, let's add that to the MDA.
Yeah.
So it's a suggestion, and you don't have to take it. But it's a real consideration.
But you're still not saying remove all the commercial from that interior.
That's right. Yeah, that's not.
So have it in both places, what you're,
Sorry. Yeah, what I'm saying is not removing commercial from the project, not removing commercial from the interior. I don't know. I question whether or not you could ever get enough traffic to make that work without
could,
more units. And we're not talking about more units. We're talking about sticking with the vesting.
If you put professional services in there, you don't need the same traffic counts that you would for a restaurant, especially not a national chain.
Yeah, perhaps.
So, and also there'd be all of the people there driving past that at least twice a day. So, also with the training I went to, I'd prefer to keep it interior to the project, to make that an actual town center and not just more on the 89. The other issue with 89 you're going to have is getting commercial access onto it, because UDOT probably won't allow that to have another access point for commercial in that area.
Perhaps. One of the beauties, right, to the intersection of 1900, or I think you call it Town Center Road. It's not in the documents, but I know what you're talking about.
Town Center Road, Town Center.
But Tanner Center Road and 89 is actually a lighted intersection, right? So even if you utilize that as your point of turn, but you have the visibility, right? Right. Sorry, I'm a pointer.
thank you.
If we use this corner as an example, right, you have a lighted intersection that can direct traffic in, but they will see it, feel it, know it, and perhaps make that site more viable.
Except that section on that intersection's already been through approval, and when we met in the committee meeting, you said that 2A was going to stay the same. It can't stay the same if you're going to be putting commercial into it.
So,
Yeah, go ahead,
can I make a comment about that?
please.
So, one thing that I'm envisioning that could happen there, based on what you're saying, is similar to what we have in Riverdale with all the commercial frontage that's right on Riverdale Road where all the restaurants are. So you have a point of entry, but it's not directly into the business. You go on the back side of those businesses, that's where all the parking and accessibility is. It's not that you have 10 extra driveways in the front. So you can see all the businesses, but it's not the front doors of all the businesses that are along Riverdale Road. Is that something like a part of what you're describing? Do you know where I'm talking about?
Yeah, no, I totally get what you're describing, and I honestly, I don't know what I'm describing, because we don't intend right now, because it's
Too early.
it's not, yeah, it's too early to say this is the business and the type, but the use, we're okay with the use.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense? And so in the MDA, right, we're saying, like, let's allow the use, and let's allow the flexibility to put the use where maybe it can go, like that will benefit both the project, the city, and the business. Because at the end of the day, having a lot of turnover, right, within the business also is not a good thing. We want to create as much anchor as we can for the business. Like, I'm concerned that the way that was planned, I don't hate the plan by any means. Like, I'm just concerned that we're setting up a business to fail if we're making a decision that we just want it in a certain location regardless of what market dictates. So one more comment, and then ask me some more questions, and that is, as it relates to the timing. You're right, we removed the timing. I don't think it's a wise idea to create a goal, right, that's not based on what the market demand is. It's just based on the completion points of the project. Because that's also setting the business up for failure, right? Because we're now maybe not attracting the best business. We're just looking for anybody that will occupy the space, right? Before we have the units to do it. So again, we're not asking to get rid of it. We're asking for just to get rid of the timing component.
timing's tied to the residential, which would fluctuate with the market. So you'd still have flexibility in starting that with building out of the residential. It's not a specific date, it's at a percentage of the rest of the build out, which would also be market driven. So keeping that with it should still set up the business for success. I don't think
And
you're
how-
going to have too few
well,
people in there
right.
to support a business in that area.
Okay,
So that
appreciate
would-
that comment.
I mean, I hear what you're saying. I really do. I hear what you're saying. Like many people all over northern Utah, if there's some place you need to be down in Riverdale, you drive to Riverdale. And that's why I think if what we have here is unique enough to drive interest, it won't just be the people going up 89, it'll be the people all over North Ogden, Pleasant View, you know, people driving to Willard and, you know, wherever the case may be, in addition to the people here. So I just think we need to take that into account. I like the idea of maintaining the consistency that we've talked about having that a business center. We very much like the idea of having, you know, I mean, the idealized vision of maybe an ice cream store and people coming and being able to eat their ice cream on tables, you know, that are there in that grassy area, and just make it a real family-friendly kind of space, which I still really like, because as much as we want to make sure that you get all the revenue you want, we want to make sure that we get all the quality of life benefit that we need in the community. And so that's a lot of what I'm going to be focused on. But I hear what you're saying. I do like the idea of having the percentage that we've used in the past, because I think, you know, the market right now is calling for more homes, not less.
That's right.
And more
Right? Is that,
commercial.
and
There's a lot of commercial being
Right,
built
and-
going in. We've
right.
got one on our agenda. as
right,
well,
and then with
so.
more housing comes more need for the people, for resources and whatnot. So I see that that's also an interest. But anyway,
So question for you, right, as you're contemplating and considering that part, when the town center concept was put internal to the project, what were the metrics that were brought up? What was the data that said this is who we're attracting, this will be successful? Was it simply just that there's 600 units coming, or was there what was
growth
brought
around
forth
it.
to you? Help me understand.
yeah, the whole growth in the area,
And
and really 89 is huge. I just, you know, with the number of housing that's going into Pleasant View and North Ogden, it's not just in Harrisville, but the growth all around us is going to help fuel that, and preliminary numbers of people, it's just going to increase, especially as people start moving northward into Willard and Perry and so forth. 89 is going to become a more crucial roadway. So I only see that increasing, and I only see the possibility for having commercial in that inner city part is just growing.
I think the reason we put it off was to make it more unique, so it's not just another strip
Yes.
mall or another big box area.
And
we
that as
didn't,
well.
We didn't want this to be Riverdale Road. We don't necessarily want 89 to be Riverdale Road either. And having it off means it's a place people are going to stay longer than they would if they were going to something straight on the highway.
So do you mean that in terms of like
Place they can
your
go.
own feelings, like this is what I feel like I want, or did you actually get some
No, we-
business owners to say, I would like to not be on the most?
We didn't go to
Well
business
trafficked.
owners on this.
Okay, Now, I'd
We
encourage
wanted
you
a
to talk
unique
to some
place
business
for
owners.
it, and it being central to all of that housing gives them the opportunity to market to all of those people as well,
Right.
where being out on the highway wouldn't have the same effect.
Well, I think another
Also, the
component of this
gatherings along the
too
middle.
is you're going to have an area that's central, and it's not just car traffic. This is foot traffic, right? Like, this is a central area where people from all of these neighborhoods if it's the right setup, they'll walk and ride their bikes over with their families, right? And spend a few hours over there at a nice area, right? Or go get some ice cream like Chad said, you know? So I think that's what we're looking for, is something that is family-centric and not business-centric. Do we want the business? Yes, but we want it to be very much hometown feel. You know, walk over. You don't need to drive your car. You know, bring the bikes over, whatever. And so that's where that component is important for us, is we're not worried about a heavy utilized business section. We want a business section that's inviting and complimentary to the community.
Quality of life.
So,
And if that means we're not getting national chains, that still means we're getting businesses that cater to that sort of area.
yeah, if that gives us a mom and pop pastry shop instead of the big cookie company, so be it, right? And you know, that's always the risk you take when you do things like this. You might sit empty. You could fill up that quick. It's part of the deal. That's part of the risk associated when we do these types of things. But knowing what we want and what we desire, the metrics and the numbers really don't matter at that point, right? I've been in sales for over 20 years. And what you're saying is, I need flexibility, but you're failing to represent to me a pitch of why and how you see that going. If we gave you flexibility to say, well, I'm going to shift this over here and shift this over here, I need more information for me to be able to make that decision to say, okay, I'm on board with him to say, yeah, I'll give you the flexibility. If it's just based on what might happen, I don't know that I'm on board to give you that flexibility.
Okay. So, yeah, so the more information, right, and I'm happy to go there, but I will recognize this, right? This is a great quote. I love it, right? He who is convinced against his will is of the opinion still, right? If that's just how you feel, right, I won't be able to convince you of it. If you want the data, right, I think you can go up and down every major road and look at your mom and pop shops and look at where they're located. And more often than not, they will be located on major corridors. If you want the data, right, I have more than just the Chick-fil-A that I can quote to you. And I'll let this load up. But that's why I asked the question, is it about the business? Because if it is, let's think about the business and what they need. And I would caution you to be careful about.
To have a city gathering place.
Sorry, what was that?
The reason we have the amphitheater in the middle was to have a city gathering place too.
Yeah.
So it's about the neighborhood and the community that's getting built here as well, not just about the business.
Yeah. And again, I think I'm asking you to consider not just, hey, I love this idea, but what would it take to execute on the idea? That's how I'm asking you to go that far. So in that, right, Dairy Queen daily traffic is 20,000 trips per day. 7-Eleven is 25,000. A Sprouts Market is 40,000. Starbucks is 20,000. A Quick Crack Car Wash is 25, and a vape shop. We got a vape shop in here, 10K, right? Those are the kinds of trips per day numbers you need for a whole variety of businesses, whether it's a coffee shop, right, or a convenience store, or a small market. That's what I'm asking. That's the data. I'm asking you to consider the data. And I get that a lot of times we plan based on, and we should. I'm not trying to suggest that we shouldn't consider, placemaking and how could we do it. I'm actually saying, like, to make an interior piece like that viable, and we've all been to town centers that are vibrant. And I can take you to Daybreak, which is a sort of a proven one, right? They have a town center, and they have a lot more density around it than this. And it's taken until the last 5 years for their commercial to actually not turn over in their town center. And so, I mean, it's a consideration, right? Like, were we considering the right population around the town center in order to create a town center? And if not, I'm saying let's create the flexibility in the plan where it can be located to give us the highest likelihood that it would work.
So,
Those are the thoughts that I have as I thought through this.
I have another question about that, and I apologize, I came in a minute late, but, so with your flexibility, and I've read through, I've done lots of reading, I don't have it all memorized, but based on this and the reading, with the flexibility that you're seeking at the beginning, did you give us like options A and B, or are you saying right now we want it to be more than like options A, B, and C as far as flexibility? What exactly is the flexibility that you're seeking?
So the way it was written in the document is that acreage, right, the 2.5 acres of commercial property can be located anywhere in the project.
Okay.
Right? So we could locate some of it on 2000 North, we could keep some in the middle, and we could put some on 89, or it could go all in any one of those places. And that's how we wrote the document.
Okay, thank you.
I believe you said that 89 is 16,000 trips a day. Is that what you said?
Yes, that's right.
Okay.
Do you have a date when that last number was? Did they do that on an annual basis? Anybody?
I don't know when UDOT, they have a cool map, it's interactive, you click on it and it
Yes.
populates.
I'm guessing that's an annual figure? Like they assess it annually? Does anyone know?
They also did a study too when they were doing the MDA for this.
I believe it would be higher than that for
Or-
annually even. Ironically, I was participating in a planning tool module presentation this last week, and the numbers that I was quoted are much higher than that number as far as the total traffic on Highway 89. I think that the key, though, is some of the same information I got out of that meeting is maybe related, if you don't mind me kind of
No,
taking
please,
a moment.
please.
Related to our Walmart or our Harrisville shopping center. And forgive me because my notes are really blurry. So it's either 4.4 million or 3.2 million, but regardless, millions of visits to our Harrisville Walmart. And if we use that kind of to, as a litmus test, we have vacant pads by Walmart that we haven't been able to fill, and Walmart's been in place for over 20 years. Right. And so we know that the population count in our area isn't where it needs to be to sustain more businesses, even at our epicenter of shopping at Walmart.
They are
That's my
building new
concern, the businesses that he listed
around other places,
for
too.
trip totals, right? There was one that would meet the requirement for 89 based on the numbers, and that
Right.
was a mom and pop bake shop. So who do we hope to get, right? If we
Well-
don't even get the numbers that we need, what are we looking at?
So I think that the more important question to be asking, though, is to allow flexibility in the plan to bring what the market is, which is essentially what I hear Jason asking for.
right.
It's, if we are married to a plan like we are at Walmart, those are pads, they're already established, there's
Right.
nobody asking us to subdivide those more, to create any more, and we have them vacant. I guess my recommendation is, why would we not consider another option that would make a more viable market in our community? But it's
There are vacant pads at Walmart, and then there's all of the development going on 2550, where they're building new commercial businesses. So
Right.
they're building new commercial businesses on the north end of this, where there are vacant ones elsewhere, and creating a unique place might attract some people that wouldn't go for the more generic options.
and there are just as many that have been rebuilt out towards the freeway that were unsuccessful and sat vacant and closed, and then they had to reopen as a different business. So I hear Jason asking, can we have the flexibility? You're not committing that you're not going to take any of the commercial. The percentage of the commercial is
That's
going to
right.
remain the same.
That's right. We're committed to that
And you're not
element.
asking for more density in the housing.
That's right.
Well, they
That's
are.
right.
They're asking for the
Well,
Just the
flexibility.
flexibility.
and they're changing the minimum lot size, which I don't think we can do.
4,000 to
From
3,000.
4,000 to 3,000 square foot lots.
Right.
And that's going to change the density of the housing And
It doesn't change the density of the housing. So if the project, right, we're saying that the vesting is fixed, right?
Right.
So maybe we are saying that we want the flexibility in the MDA to get, right, to the project to work with whatever parameters that we think is the right thing for the project, but not increase the density. No, that's
making
not
smaller
the
lots
proposal
is
at
going
all.
to make the neighborhoods more dense.
The smaller
So
lot in one
what are
place
you
makes a
doing?
larger lot in another
So it's
place.
just a shift.
It's a shift.
Oh, okay.
A smaller lot in one place creates more open space in another place. That's.
Okay, I'm just wondering what
it's fixed.
other uses you're going to put to that like extra space. Because we already have varied lot sizes. Some of those are significantly larger.
So is your commitment to maintain the green and open space as well, not take any of that away as you start moving things around?
Yes, I haven't imagined that, right? I'm going to just make an acknowledgement to Millennial Park because we want to talk about that, but let's talk about that separate from that comment, okay? Because that just has a different topic to it. But yes, the parks in our plan, right, we imagine them as fixed. We're not proposing anything there. It's just simply how the units are laid out. And right now, Nathan, you're right. I have said to you, we're keeping 2A just exactly how it is, with one exception, right? As we've talked about and contemplated the commercial. And really, to me, the viable spot right now is this corner, right? Because it's got there's a planned road, there's a planned light. That's just something that I would say that's something that we would consider as we move forward with this project.
Planned road, planned light, and visibility
Yeah, I mean,
on the main thoroughfare. Go ahead.
Sorry. I hear what you're saying, and I can see the need for some flexibility. However, what I'm concerned about happening is that if we grant you all the flexibility that you're requesting, we're really losing. So how I see this is that we give you kind of general parameters on the outside, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then you just kind of scramble whatever you want to on the inside based on what you think is the need. So you're suggesting, if I understand correctly, that for the most part, the layout that currently exists will remain the same, with just a few parts, like in the northern section and then the one that's over in the floodplain, as being the primary ideas for swapping things? Or are you thinking more swapping? I mean, kind of give me a vision of what you mean by, the flexibility. I'm trying to figure that one out.
Okay, thank you. I might mean a couple of things, so let's play it out for a minute, okay? As it relates to swapping, right? So the floodplain area, right, is temporarily. We think that there's a solution to this, right?
Right.
Which is to go and upsize a culvert, and that might be the direction that we go. But if that somehow doesn't get worked out, right, and not the most viable solution, okay, well, what could we put there to take advantage of the property or the land? And I personally think, right, I'm not going to share some opinion, right, that this clubhouse is in a terrible location for the community, right? I'd much rather have it be on the main boulevard and be visible than be hidden from the community.
Right.
Right?
Oh, that's right.
So
I like that.
swapping, I imagine, right, that we would take that clubhouse and stick it over here and take these units and stick it over here, right? And the flexibility of the units, right, and how they're configured helps me do that.
Right.
The other thing that I've imagined, and this comes from a builder perspective, which isn't always understood by just someone who only flips land, like the previous developer who has never built a home, right? And that is, there is an important component to how we build and efficiency of how we build. And I'll give you a couple of examples. So in this portion of the plan, right, these lots right in here are lots that have rear loading garages, but there's only a few of them, right? When you're a builder, you want there to be efficiency in how in the types of floor plans and product types that you can offer, because it also helps you offer something that's more affordable in the market, which we're very interested in this market in doing, right? And so I personally imagine, just putting all of my cards on the table, that we'd probably remap this a little bit because there's plenty of space to do it, and I'd make a more traditional fronting homes, not just have a few homes that have a rear load garage. That also adds extra cost because now we're creating a driveway, right, an alleyway in addition to a roadway, and then the homeowners have to maintain even more. So I think there's some ability here when we ask for flexibility in the product to say, from a builder's mindset, like we may want to change just a few of those things. When I look at, other than those two things, when I look at the project as a whole, we're super excited. Like, this is everything we want. With one additional exception, right? The twin homes. I don't think it was well understood when we planned those twin homes that there's also another opportunity, which is this can all be single-family homes, right? These twin home lots, each side is the same width as these cluster lots. These are single-family detached, and these are attached. So when we talk about flexibility of product, we actually imagine that these could they did not move. I was here the other day, and I was like, can I touch this? And it didn't do anything. You guys have fixed something. We actually can imagine that section being single-family homes.
Right on.
Right? So I don't think we're thinking crazy here. I don't think we're reimagining the entire project. We are just saying there's a little bit of rigidity to the current master development agreement, and allow us to adjust, right? Whether we just might have a better idea. It just might be a little bit better. And if it's not, this is the plan, right? Like that's all we're talking about.
If we allow you the flexibility, then we don't know what we're getting in that space. The point of the master development agreement is so we know what to expect. And if we add in all of this flexibility, then we don't know what to expect.
So can I respond to that? From what I'm hearing and seeing, I don't feel that we're getting something totally different so much as we're rearranging the Legos, so to speak. So here are all of our Lego components.
Right.
And they might be A, B, C, D. They might be A, C, B, D. They might just be rearranged a little bit and not even in the whole thing, like you said, in a couple of spots. So maybe that's not the correct way to think about it, but I don't feel that there's necessarily a bait and switch. I feel that it is moving components around to allow for the best outcome possible.
I love your analogy, and I think it's maybe even helpful, like describe to me the concern. Like, what's the worst case scenario here? Like, let's maybe work backwards for a second, because I think you're right. I'm imagining it that we have components, we fit those components in, right? And at the end of the day, it's all kind of the same parts and pieces. But if there's a concern, tell me what it is.
One of my concerns is that you're changing the components as well. So one of these sections says you can change the land uses within it, and reconfigure the intended uses of it, which could result in this not being a mixed use, or only having townhomes, or only having single-family homes. And part of the mixed use is to, one, have that commercial and have the residential, but also have a variety in the residential and you're taking out the twin homes and you've talked about taking out the apartments. And if you take out those options, then we have less variety and it doesn't look as much like a variety of options because you've said, we don't want to use these pieces. We're going to bring in other pieces instead. Also with the minimum square footage, I don't think we have any lots that are 4,000 square feet in Harrisville. This was a smaller lot than what we've got just to get to that. And I don't think the city has ever been comfortable going below that. We got asked by the developer before to go lower, and we fought them up to this 4,000. And if you take that space away from the homes, it's got to go into something. And if you're given the flexibility to change the intended uses, then I don't know what that's going into.
Okay. Well, before you go on, because
Hold
there's
on,
there's two things there I want to address.
I'm going to add on to
Yes,
that just because
please.
you can answer it at the same time. So adding on to what Nathan said, with changing components, if you could add in what would be the deciding factor to change the twin homes to single family?
What would be the deciding factor?
Yeah, like just market demand, or would it be as we're moving things around, it might be better to do a 50-50, 50, twin homes, 50% twin homes, 50% single family. Anyway, but continue with what you were
Okay, good.
going to respond
Well,
to.
make sure I come back to it
Okay.
because I do have some thoughts around that. So land use, let's talk about that. That was your first question or your first point. If the document is reading as if we can make up our own land uses, then
2.3.
I'm sorry. We'll correct that. I don't read it that way, and it
I think
wasn't
it might be a
intended
language
that way.
issue more
So
than
it
a-
might be just a language issue. So in the table, right there, all the land uses are spelled out,
Right.
right? So those are the land uses within the document that can be done in the project. So we're not proposing that there's new land uses that can happen here, okay? So that might be a wording thing, and we're happy to look at that.
Yeah.
The
Reads.
your second what was the second thing you
That's
mentioned?
the
Changing-
lot sizes, I think.
Oh.
And also getting rid of, so back to the Legos, you're getting rid of the twin home option, you're getting rid of the townhome option, and so we're not having the same variety, and I don't know what's replacing those necessarily, and this
Yeah.
doesn't spell that out.
Well, I think your land use document does spell it out. It spells out all of the options that are there, and I'm not. You asked me what I thought, and I gave you ideas.
Right.
Am I proposing to do those things? No.
Right.
I'm giving you ideas of why the flexibility can be such a valuable thing, and I'll give you one more example because I can't handle myself. The condos, right? Your condo plat is planned at 20 units per acre, right?
Right.
We're building a product in Park City right now, which is a 3-story townhome, right? Which I think is more livable, and I'd rather have nobody above or below me, right? But we build those at 18 units per acre. So flexibility allows us to look at product type and say, can we actually produce a better product in that location? And it might actually, from a height standpoint, look about the same, but I just gave the homeowner a better living option. So when I talk about flexibility, and as we get into the project and imagine it, that's really what we're talking about. And we're not talking about changing the uses. We're talking about allowing us the ability to work within the plan.
Right.
Then you asked about,
The northeast corner and the discussion of single-family homes versus twin homes.
Okay.
So currently written as twin homes with the possibility of some changes there. Do you feel like it would be all one or all the other, or would you, is the flexibility to do a mix of those two things part of what you're discussing?
yeah, I imagine it could be all three of those options. So another piece of this master development agreement that you'll notice is we do what I think is properly define a development area. So the current plan had massive phasing associated with it, right? We said hey, I think we might missing something here. A development area should be the platted portion, right? When we commit to the plan. So when we come in and let's say we use the cluster homes along the highway, right? And we plat those lots. Those become fixed in the plan, and that would then be that would define a development area. And then all of the plats beyond that, they might change a little bit. They might stay exactly like this plan. But every time, we also propose to create a document in the plan that every plat, there's something that the city can follow. I can't remember what I called it in. Yeah, it's a report.
Yeah, yes.
We proposed that report should accompany that fixed plan, right? So that we're always accounting for the units. Right? And those development areas become that. So when you get to what would you do here, Fieldstone, right? It might depend on what we think the market needs, right? And what the project needs. When you build a project, and this is, these things are kind of hard sometimes because like sometimes I think as a professional in the industry, like this should just be well understood. So I apologize if it comes off the wrong way. But projects that have diversity in them hum better, they move better, they incorporate more lifestyle and more opportunity for us better. So yes, we're asking for flexibility, but it doesn't serve the project for us to go do all one thing. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Because we want, just like the commercial, we want more buyers, not less buyers, right? When you take a project and you restrict it to one thing, then you've just eliminated a whole bunch of people.
Right.
And we're looking to move this through as quickly as possible. Yes.
Jason, I just wanted to say too that the east side there, part of what went into the creation of this was the idea that we needed something for the 50-plus folks.
Uh-huh.
Those that wanted to downsize from bigger homes or they just wanted smaller footprints. I like the idea of having them single, not necessarily connected. I like that idea. I like the idea of maybe putting something similar to what we're going to put on 89 over there, but I want to make sure that it looks nice, that whatever we do is not, it doesn't look cookie cutter like you're saying. We don't want any of that stuff. We want the diversity. We want it to look nice, and we want 50-plus people to say, yeah, I would love to move there.
I agree, understood. But I also want to build homes for 76% of Utah households who cannot afford the median home price, right? Like we are in a housing crisis.
Right.
I want. What I think we're coming to the table with is if you allow the flexibility, you're going to get what people want and need, right? When we start to when we try to make rule upon rule upon rule and restrict, we're actually limiting, right? Who can go there. Right. And so, yeah, I think it's okay to think about the project like this and say, hey, can there be some age restricted in there? But I think you really have to be careful not to try to dictate the market in that way and allow it to happen. We want to sell homes. We are not in business to anything else.
Right.
We need to sell homes. And in a project like this, which by the way is ridiculously expensive to create, there's no other way around it. We need the flexibility. We need the ability to create what people want, right? And we're totally happy. We don't think anything's been done bad here. We're totally happy to stick with the vesting. We're happy to make sure that there's commercial in the project. Like we're not trying to take we're just saying, hey, let's let the market figure this out.
I think I'd be more comfortable if we went to redrawing sections in this though and say, okay, we're changing that to this. Let's update that section rather than granting a blanket flexibility.
that's something you're just going to have to consider. I think I've made enough points on that are of benefit, but you're going to have to make your recommendation to the council. What else?
I think that's a valid point, though.
I really appreciate you answering so many questions.
Yeah, no,
Oh,
totally.
no, this,
Thank you.
And
I'm
really,
happy,
really helpful.
happy to do it.
You know, the other thing that I thought, and I know we're getting close to our next meeting, that I think is really important to consider. I believe I understand your point of view, and I agree with it for the most part, which in essence is, let's let the market drive what we put in these places, right? My concern on that, and this is where I think we might be able to form some sort of an agreement, is what the market may want may not be how we want to look at ourselves and how we want our community developed. Because we still want that community feel. You know what I mean? So I think we
do.
can marry those.
I do.
I think we can marry those two things. Again, I know you need the money, and we want you to have what you want. We also want the quality, and we want the experience, I think is really critical. So when people walk in that center place right there, it's an experience to come to Harrisville. It's not like going into North Ogden or Pleasant View and just going to a restaurant on 89. We want an experience. We want people to come for the experience.
Okay.
So
Got it.
there has to be a way that we can marry those two ideas, and I think we can.
I think we can too, and I appreciate that last comment. The thing I would encourage you to think about as it relates to that comment is what part of it is my opinion, and what part of it is, a kind of more open-minded thinking about this process. And some things I'll give you to just think about as it relates to that, right, is if we just take housing for a second. What I live on a lot, and I live in a single-family home, right? I've got mine, so what do I care about anybody else, right? But right behind me, we built townhomes, right? And the most common thing that is suggested when we do such an awful thing is that it's going to lower the value of the property, right? Well, my value has gone up $500,000 since we built those townhomes, right? And the property across the way, right, has got even more. Are we projecting our opinion of what affects, our homes and our value and our livelihood, or are we using real evidence? And that's the thing that I just want to put out there. A lot of times we create rules and we create constraints because of what we think, right, or what we feel, but not necessarily because of the evidence. And as we drive around communities and we look at things, what is it that we really want? I really want to put people in homes. I want to create home ownership opportunities for people who don't have it otherwise. And that to me is community. And I get that you really want this town center and this place, and I support it 100%.
Right.
You just need to say, well, if that's what I want, what should I be doing to get it? And I would even tell you to go rethink the whole plan if that's the case, right? Because if you really want a town center, right? But don't do that. I need to buy this property. I don't want to start over. But that's the challenge I'm giving to you, is to step back and really rethink how we view. Is it my opinion, or is this really what the market needs? Sorry, I've lots of time. You tell me to shut up and I will.
Fine. Got 4 minutes.
Should we-
It's up to you, Chair. The other
any
element we
other
can
questions, or should
we can
we
discuss is the park, but we
adjourn
can
the
talk about that during the
work
regular.
session and
Yeah.
then come back to this after the.
Yeah,
So
let's,
do you want to adjourn this? Because we do need to, he
yeah.
does
no,
have
we-
some
we can
items to
just-
share
we
about the
can
park.
bring Jason back up.
Yeah, let's bring him back
Talk
up
about
after
the
that.
park Later on, yeah.
Let's
Thank
adjourn
you.
this. Thank you.
You're awesome.
for
I appreciate
your
what
time
you
in
do.
this work session, and I will ask for someone to please make a motion that we adjourn.
I motion that we adjourn this Ben Lomond MDA discussion meeting.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. Call this planning commission meeting to order. Welcome, everybody.
Welcome, everybody.
Welcome. We are going to start our planning commission meeting now. And he says I have to talk a lot louder, so I'll sit up next to the microphone too. Thank you all for coming. With that, we'll move to consent approval of the planning commission minutes from September 11th. Do I get an opportunity to review them? And if so, any issues, any corrections?
I didn't notice any corrections.
Okay. Then I'll entertain a motion to approve.
Angie, you want to go?
Sure. I move that we approve the planning commission minutes from September 11th, 2024.
I need a second.
I'll second that.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Very good, thank
Any opposed? Okay. Minutes are approved. That moves us to agenda item number 3, which is a public hearing for ordinance 559, an ordinance amending the general plan map and official zoning map for certain parcels on 750 West. With that, we're supposed to review the rules for the public hearing. We're on page 3, and I lost page 3. There we go. Okay. On page 3. Rules for our public hearings are it's an opportunity for you to share your opinion, your thoughts. We're here to listen. It's not a discussion, so we may not be able to or have the time to answer all of your questions. Also, we'd answer them afterwards in our discussion, not during the public hearing. Please state your name clearly, speak into the microphone. Everyone will have 3 minutes. There used to be a clock behind me, so we'll try to time you. Please be respectful, no shouting, pointing fingers, no applause. If you're disorderly, you may be asked to leave. That's the rules for public hearing. All right, Jenny, can you introduce what this public hearing is about, since we have 2 of them? I want to make sure everyone's on the same page when we start.
Thank you, Chair. Good evening, Commissioners. I'm actually going to turn the time over to our contracted planner, Brandon Green, who's here, and he's going to review the memo and identify where this project is located for you all.
Thank you. Thank you.
Good evening, Planning Commission Chair and Planning Commission members. I'm Brandon Green. Contracted, I work with Jones and Associates and also help your fine city with planning and zoning, and it's been a pleasure. This property is located at the north end of the city, just off of 2535 north and at 750 west. So maybe could you pull up the current zoning map, maybe the next? Yeah. So we're talking about, I need to get a smaller laptop. We're talking about this parcel here. Right now for this rezone request. Currently is zoned agriculture or A1, and it's proposed to be rezoned to CP2. The CP2 zone is the zone that is in purple to the left of the green and along the Highway 89. Your general plan calls for that area, that triangular area between Highway 89, 2550, and 750 to be rezoned that CP2 zone. So the rezone request fits within the city's general plan as adopted by the town. To the north of this property is Pleasant View. And they also have an element of commercial along 2550. And then obviously currently it's agriculture to the east, and to the west is CP2. The proposal is for, well, let me just state that the CP2 zone is a planned community commercial zone. The proposal is to provide some office space in that area that fits within the CP2 planned community commercial zone. Make sure I've got everything. So that we know what that is, a CP2 zone is the sale of goods and services to general public in the community and regional market. The location of the zone should be along selected locations adjacent to the arterial streets which run through Harrisville and that provide good access with limited disturbance to the residential areas in the community. So it fits within that definition of the zone. So with that, I will, I guess I can answer any questions or.
I'll just hand it back to us. Thank you for the introduction. I think it's time for us to hear from the public. So I will make a motion. I motion that we open the public hearing for Ordinance 559, amending the parcel in 750 West.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. That was all of us. Now is your opportunity. Please come share your opinion.
Hi, I'm Cinda Wayman. I have a property right next to it, and I just was wondering how this will affect. I have horse property. There's an arena that will border this property, a horse arena, so I can't get there. It'll be dust.
So are you the house that's just immediately to the south of this
Yes.
drawing? Okay.
I'm right exactly next door to Janice. And I have horse property. We have, like I said, I have arenas. We have, riding horses there constantly. How will this affect and be affected by all the dust that's there? And there's an arena adjacent to me on the other side of the property. That another 3-acre piece with a horse arena as well. So there are horse properties and horses right in there. And what will the traffic be on that road? Okay, that was my concern.
Thank you.
I'm not for it myself, so I don't know if I could say that. But
No, you can.
okay, yeah, because
That's
like
why
I
we're
said, I'm wondering how it's going to affect my property and my fence lines and my animals with all the traffic going in and out. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name's Jeff Richardson. I live at 2396 North, 750 West, just south of the proposed property here. And myself, I can't see rezoning this for commercial property when I look around the city and there's so much already zoned commercial property that is just sitting in wasteland right now. And so until that property's developed, why should you rezone agricultural into commercial property and instead of pushing development to what's already zoned and the infrastructure is for the most part already there. On 750 West, we already see enough traffic as it is. People use that cutting off Highway 89 to go over to 2700 North, and the traffic coming up 2550 is at a bare minimum now. So I really can't see that it's advantageous for a business to open up right there at that location. The traffic is there, it's just going to draw more traffic if you do put the right business there. I think that you should either, if you're gonna rezone it into residential, because residential is already there and around it. Residential isn't gonna disturb the other residents that are around it. And if you start zoning that commercial now, it's just gonna be easier for others to bring in commercial property all the way around us and disturb the what piece we do have left in our neighborhoods now. So I'm against it at least until the other commercial properties are developed.
Thanks, Jeff.
Good evening. I appreciate this opportunity to voice my opinion. My name is Lorraine Stewart. I own property at 687 West 2550. We raised our family there. And I would like to think that that property would be available for my grandchildren to use. But I worry about the issue of safety. Watching people walk up 2550 right now is scary. It's not safe. There's some sidewalks. And I feel like maintenance on that road is, I believe, what I understand is it's shared between Pleasant View and Harrisville. But it's not adequate. Am I wrong? I see you shaking your head. Am I wrong?
It's a Pleasant View road, it's not our road.
Okay, well then I guess that's not something that I should bring up, but it is a concern. If the traffic is increased, that road needs to be maintained. I just do not feel like it would create, I feel like it would create a safety situation. I'm concerned how it would affect my taxes. I want to be able to leave property for my grandchildren, that they would have a desirable place to live in. I feel like there are other properties in Harrisville, and I appreciate Mr. Richardson's comments, that could be developed in a commercial area. I would really like to see it zoned residential and not commercial. Thank you.
Thank you. Sorry.
I'm Cecil Satterthwaite, the applicant. And just to maybe answer a couple of the questions, as far as against the south property, that horse arena has been there, so they continue to use that. And if there is dust, then we'll deal with that. But we will have a 6-foot high privacy fence along that southern border. And then as far as 2550 North, that is a Pleasant View street. And we've submitted this site plan to them. I haven't seen a review back, but we will have to be held to their improvements and access standards. And as of now, in preliminary talks with them, we will provide curb and sidewalk, which will, it was mentioned, people walking, but sidewalk will, at least, if this is approved, when we go ahead and build, the sidewalk will be built along there. As far as addressing other commercial properties that aren't used, this is the property that we have under contract that we would like to develop. And, you know, I'd like to see other commercial places come in too, but we think this is a good location for this. Provide some businesses, spaces, affordable spaces that they can come in and do business in Harrisville.
As long as you're there.
Yeah.
So you need about 3 acres is how big you're asking for, right?
Yeah, and it'll be shrunk down by the time we do the roads and the improvements to the actual 3 acres, yeah.
Can we continue the rest of that in the discussion?
Yeah, yeah, we can.
Sorry.
No, yeah, we can. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Hi, I'm Chris Cope. I live at 2416 North 750 West. Mr. Satterthwaite spoke to curb and gutter and sidewalk. I'm wondering if city water is available to that property and where it is, if city sewer, sanitary sewer, and storm sewer are available to those properties. And if so, my understanding was that 2550 was split down the middle. The north side is Pleasant View's and the south side is ours. Is that not correct? Okay. So if that's Pleasant View Cities, that all of that infrastructure, I would assume, is going to run under 2550. Whose will that be to install and maintain? Whose expense will that be at? As far as the site plan shows 2 points of entrance and egress off of 2550, not off of 750, which is good. That's a positive. I appreciate that. But I wonder how left turn lanes into and out of the parking area will be accommodated. Will there be left turn lanes, or how will that work? And if I may, this one looks to be a little close to 750. So, you know, that seems, a left turn out of that parking lot at that point seems kind of difficult. The concept plan doesn't show at all the proposed height of the buildings. There's no front elevation, and I wonder what the plan is for that. I've wondered if there are ordinances or restrictions in the city that govern lighting to reduce impact on the surrounding residents. Do we have downward lighting as an ordinance, and will that be looked at? And I wonder if Harrisville City will receive revenue from this development that will meet its cost to the city in terms of policing and whatever else there may be, that there may be cost to the city for. And I wonder also, will a developer and or the tenants receive tax incentives either to develop the property or to occupy as a tenant? And I agree with everything Mr. Richardson said. I would note that there's a commercial pad at the southeast corner of 89 and 750 that it's a commercial pad. It's available to buy. It's been available to buy for a long time, and nobody has bought it. So, thank you very much.
Thank you.
So the developer, you mentioned curb and gutter and sidewalk. And so is that just in front of the development here? Or is that gonna go all the way down to the highway and all the way up to the elementary school? So that's just in front of the development. It's kind of senseless and pointless because I know numerous people who walk up and down 2550 and there's no curb and gutter and sidewalk there. But with the increased traffic and no curb and gutter and sidewalk going up 2550, it would be kind of senseless just to do that one little piece. It doesn't improve the safety of the citizens that enjoy the neighborhood walk. But anyway, that's just a point I wanted to make.
Thank you. No one else wants to come out? Can I get a motion to close the public hearing?
I will motion to close the public hearing for ordinance 559 in an ordinance amending the general plan map, official zoning map with certain parcels on 750 West.
I will second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
carried, he's opposed. All right, now we move on to our number 4, which is discussion action recommend, which is our discussion on Ordinance 559, ordinance amending the general plan map and official zoning map for certain parcels on 750 West. Let's start that by addressing a few of the comments. First, there is an access on 750 on the back end of the buildings, so there are 3 entrances. The curb, gutter, and sidewalk would just go in the development area, not down the entire highway. The idea is that as other properties are improved or trying to change things, that they would add the sidewalk that abuts it until it goes everywhere. Justin, you want to add something there? So our public works director is not agreeing with me.
It's not that I'm agreeing or disagreeing. Again, we have no jurisdiction on 2550.
Right.
This will be up to the review of Pleasant View.
Right.
On what they will say goes in. So yes, the improvements of curb, gutter, sidewalk on 750 will be
just that parcel
made for sure on Harrisville's decision.
Right.
As far as 2550, we will have to get word back and review back from Pleasant View
because that's their road.
If they decide to hold off for a full improvement or however they.
Yep.
So I'm just putting that up.
In terms of utilities and stuff going to.
The utilities currently are Harrisville cities coming off of 750 West to the existing home that's there. How that transpires, if they need bigger services, the sewer main is actually sent out on 2550. There's a central Weaver main. There is Pine View possibility for secondary water. There is Bonavista for culinary water. The infrastructure is there. The utilities will all be done on the cost of the developer. And again, laterals are always maintained and subject to maintenance of the home or building owner,
right? Not
the cities, just the main lines for the cities.
Right. Thank you.
May I ask about storm sewer? So I just wanted to make a comment that this is a proposal for a rezone application, and we want to be sure that we are not reviewing things that aren't being proposed yet. This is a rezone application.
I just on the comments where all of that was on that. We do have a commercial zone code that deals with the lighting, that deals with screening from the neighboring uses, all of that. We have a zone. This isn't at the stage to get that applied because this is just a rezone. There's not actually a building going up until they get a building permit, which goes through another process.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
About a comment that Mr. said.
That's what our discussion is for.
Great.
Mr. Senator, if we could have you come up for our discussion, since you're the applicant and have all the answers.
Maybe some of them. So we have a letter from Bonavista Water that they will serve the culinary water. What are some of the other questions?
So you mentioned in your earlier address that there was a purchase contract. So has the property already been purchased?
I don't want to get into details, but we're building Janice a new home.
Okay.
And it's part of it, which is already started.
That's fine. I didn't know.
And I have the affidavit from her authorizing us to apply for the rezone.
Okay.
And as far as like the buildings, the elevations and all that, that will come in when we, if approval is granted for the rezone, we will come in with a more detailed site plan. As far as the questions on the access off of 2550, like I said, we've submitted to Pleasant View, but I haven't seen a review. So some of that may change, whether they allow us those 2 accesses off of 2550, we're not sure yet. That is, if approved, then we would come in with a more detailed site plan showing the actual building architecture.
Right.
And more detailed
this is
plan.
just to make it commercial and allow use.
Yes. And as far, the question was asked on storm drain. We plan on underground detention, with part of that being retention to accommodate the LID requirements, so some of it will be absorbed back into the ground.
So are these one level units?
It'll be one level, but inside it, and we'll custom build to the tenants, but there is room to do a mezzanine. So, you know, maybe a front storefront with offices above and some warehouse space in the back.
And again, that
All the
would-
entrance for the overhead doors we plan on through the back. So everything facing the street would be more of a business front or a storefront look.
Thank you.
Yeah.
As far as zoning to residential, our future land use map doesn't show this as residential. So it would either stay the zone it is or turn to commercial. That's our general plan.
Well, A1 incorporates, is it one structure per?
A1 is one residential
one.
area per 1 acre.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's what it is right
Right.
now. But on
So
our
they're
general
staying
plan,
in the
it could go to commercial.
And even on our future land map, right?
Well, that's what
That's
it
the
is
projector.
from-
Then it would all be CP2, so that it would all
Yeah,
correspond in that
so it needs to
area.
be one of those two zones, or we would need to amend the general plan, which I feel like we want commercial in that section. If we put one in, more in that section might go commercial, but that's what the general plan is for, to get us there. We don't dictate which business moves into which building quite the same way. They get to choose where they go relative to that.
Yeah, the challenge to the existing homeowners along 750 is that there's a lot of commercial that's already going up 89 there, and so it's not that if we have the rest of it CP2 zone that commercial will all of a sudden jump in, and there's already commercial there, and there's already more commercial that's planned, potentially planned for that area.
But I do understand how.
Yes.
The north end of 750
Yes.
is residential right now.
Right.
The south end's commercial, and there are empty spaces. So that was, since several of them brought that up.
Well, and like Nathan says, though, you can't dictate what pieces of property sell and where people want to put things, right? So that's hard, that's always hard. So, you know, they mentioned there's a piece that is for sale and meant for sale. Well, we can't dictate what property sells,
Or what price it sells
or what
at,
price it
or-
sells for. What we can do is try to make the best decision. If we do make that commercial, does the rest of it take off, right? Like, you start one, does all of a sudden it
Does
encourage
that
other
make the
growth?
other areas more attractive?
Correct.
Because they've been closer to this.
Correct. So.
Well, and is that the best use for the space where we have
Well, yeah.
all the school routes that use that road? There's at least 4 schools that use that route every day. And then we have
That far over?
750, yes, it's a major bus route.
Right, but this
Yeah.
would be on the west side of 750, so I mean,
Oh, I'm just saying in
Yeah.
general, just
Right.
general traffic that goes through
Right,
that
yeah.
area.
There's a lot of traffic in that area, but it's
not
a
necessarily
trail road.
west of 750, but certainly going east of 750.
Yeah.
On 2550, yes,
I would
you're absolutely right
never
there.
intended
You know,
to
the
be
other,
a residential street.
yeah, the other interesting thing that I was just thinking about is where Pleasant View is putting so much commercial on the north side. Would somebody want to be on, oh, sorry, yes. Would somebody want to be on the corner right there of busy street 750 and then 2550 with commercial on the other side? Or would it be good for a buffer to have a business right there and then we start with a commercial? I'm not sure that anybody would want to would build a home there. So I can't see
the
that.
rest of the streets developing commercial too, because
Right.
the rest of 2550 is going that way, and so if we go that way, it works.
We wanted to develop it agriculturally years ago
Well,
and had a plan and were declined, not here, just with local property
Right.
owners to keep it more open. That's just a personal note. There
right,
are, you do
that's-
have a lot of opinions and a lot of different demographics in the area that want different things.
So that's, yeah, property owners have certain rights.
Right,
to
oh,
property too.
100%, yes.
So the person that owns it wants to do something with it, if someone else owned it, they could do the opposite.
Right.
But I think it's consistent with the general plan. It makes sense to have commercial fronting the 2550. There is a lot of traffic on that road, and that commercial would serve all of that traffic, which could then bring more traffic, but bringing more traffic to Harrisville isn't always a bad thing. As far as the properties next to it, they've maintained their uses. We're a right to farm community, so anything built in the area, it's the assumption that there's going to be agriculture uses next to it, and they have to put up with it. So there's not going to be any issues with that.
So you got a privacy fence.
But, yeah, they'll have screening, and that'll go through with the site plan. And so they'll be screened from the adjacent uses. Well, there are those adjacent uses once the changes to commercial. They can change that.
So it seems like it'll be similar to the businesses that are there
Down the street.
by Betos, just north of Betos. A series of
Right.
Well, I envision
Yeah.
something similar to what you have on the corner of 1100 in Washington, right? Across from the Lutheran Church, small strip mall. You know, it's set up, you know, butted up against some houses too, but they keep it clean.
It'll be smaller than the one that Pleasant View put down the street from it with the Rush Fun Flex and all those things. But it'll be consistent with the area, so I think we should let them be commercial. I don't see a reason why we shouldn't. I mean, it is legislative, we could just say keep it the way it is, but we're,
pass along and they
I don't know that that's what we want to do. I prefer to let it be commercial. I want to let businesses come in, let people sell their property for things, and I want the future land use to match the current land use. So the more we get it there, the better.
Well, I also think there are a number of people in the area that would like to see the corner developed with something.
Right.
So, and no one is asking to
like
the house there.
business or
Just developed into something
Okay.
beyond what it is right now.
so rather than just
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, I like the idea of letting it be commercial.
the logic would be to honor the request
Yeah.
And it's not like we're being
for change.
bombarded with applicants for a number of things on that corner.
Well, it's not.
No, that's a tough sell.
And the people that used it as agriculture don't, well, are agreeing to this.
Yeah,
So,
it's just, they
Yeah.
don't use it for anything.
yeah. Cool.
Just
Sounds like we're ready for a motion.
Okay.
Does anyone want to make that, or should I make that?
Well, I think I have yes.
Okay, Jack, you go ahead.
Yeah, I'll make a motion to approve ordinance 559, amending the general plan map and official zoning map for certain parcels on 750 West, subject to Harrisville City Municipal Code, staff memo dated October 1st, 2024, and any other staff or agency requirements. Or,
Nope.
That's good. I'll second
That's
it.
right there.
yeah.
Okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay.
Opposed? All right.
Okay. And all this means, ladies and gentlemen, is that we're forwarding on a positive recommendation to the city council, who ultimately could say no and back out. So,
Or yes, I'll go forward with it. That.
yeah, but we're just forwarding on a recommendation. So,
All right. That takes us to 5. Agenda item number 5, which is a public hearing for ordinance 560, an ordinance amending and restating the master development agreement for the Ben Lomond Views Subdivision. we're all here for the other public hearing. Same rules apply. Jenny, will you please introduce this one so everyone knows what we're going into with this public hearing?
Absolutely. Thank you, Chair. Good evening, Commissioners. This application comes to you for some amendments to the June 22nd, 2021 Master Development Agreement that was adopted for Ben Lomond Views. As you're all aware, the original developer is no longer involved in the project. The lender currently, the lender and the proposed purchaser buyer are both present this evening at the meeting. They are currently the owners of the property and have begun infrastructure improvements on the project according to the approved plans that we have already approved. There are 3 phases of the initial MDA that have received complete approval through the City Council. And the proposed buyer is requesting that we amend the MDA. There are a number of elements of the MDA that are out of compliance due to the time frame that has lapsed in the project and other clarifications, and the work session was that was held this evening at 6 p.m. The work session was based on these changes, and now is the time for us to take public comments regarding those amendments.
So this one, can we pull up the plan as it relates to right now so everyone can see that one? Perfect. For that, and then I think it's good to open up to the public. Can I get a motion to open the public hearing?
I motion we open the public hearing for Ordinance 560 with the amendments to the MDA for Ben Lomond Views Subdivision.
I will second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. That was all of us. Public hearing's open. Please come up, give us your opinion. Tell us what you think.
So I live in the townhouses that border this property.
Can you state your name, please?
I'm sorry.
Can you state your name, please?
Chris Kilpatrick.
Thank you.
I literally live like right next to that property. So I'm just curious what amendments you're talking about, because I didn't heard about any changes.
There was a posting that went through a packet and had a whole bunch of red lines that's available on the city website.
On the city website?
Yes.
Can you provide like a link or something that we can write down?
If you go to Harrisville City for Planning Commission, there is an agenda and a packet listed for this meeting specifically.
There's
And
also, and I can hand it to you, the public meeting notice website where you can get all of the updates. So it's that link at the top.
Get the
You
same
go to
information.
public water, you go to Harrisville, you go to Planning Commission. It's there.
Okay, perfect, thank you. I think that's all I have for this moment.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris.
Good evening. My name is Fred Quintana. I live at 1873 North 400 West, technically city of North Ogden, which was annexed many years ago. And I've had the pleasure of living there for over 21 years. And love the city, love Harrisville as well, sister city and all that. The thing that I'm concerned about is, I was seated here earlier in the meeting where this gentleman was talking about some changes in the apartment structures, allowing more levels than what was initially approved at the last meeting, which I think was 2 high, and now we're talking 3 high, stands between 1, 2, and 3 units above each other. Is that correct? That's how I understood it. But anyway, my concern about that is that I realize that this gentleman is a businessman. And when you're in business, the object of business is to make money. But I live in this area. Have any of you driven through Roy or Clearfield or Sunset at 5 o'clock? Well, in the 21 years that I've lived here, I've seen traffic and congestion and building and infrastructure come, and I'm just so concerned that in not too many years will be another a city like Roy. And that is something that I cannot abide, even though it's not my decision to make. So if it comes to that, there'll be some hard decisions to be made. But again, I understand, business is business, but there are such things as rights to the consumer, rights to the homeowner, rights to live in a place that you choose to live in, and a place that is a delight, if I might use that word, to live in. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes. Appreciate your interest.
I just want to take a look at this map for 1 second.
There's another view over here too.
There's what?
They're on both screens.
It's
So
the same.
I know. I'm just thinking. Oh, she wanted to see it.
Is that the same?
They're the
as
same.
Yeah, they're
Oh,
the
okay.
same.
Yeah, I just wanted to see.
That's better color saturation from my angle.
My name is Cheryl Pulte, and I live right next door to the Quintanas. And one of my concerns is, what kind of fencing are you going to put up behind my house? Is it a wall? Is it the fence that's there? That's my question.
Are they going to put fences? This is where I live, right here. So I don't know what those little purple things are right there, whether that's the 2-story or
We can address that
3-story
in
that you're
discussion.
recommending.
Yeah.
We'll address that in the discussion.
That is, so that's right in my backyard.
We will bring that
So
up
I
in
was
discussion.
pretty good with 2 levels, but 3 levels, I won't even be able to see the sky.
Do you want, ma'am? Can you come to the microphone?
Yeah,
so we
so
can
share
hear
with
you
your,
better,
share with
please?
us your name and.
I'm sorry, Carla Quintana, and I live on 400 West, 1873 North. And I used to be right behind the first green of the golf course. And oh, how I miss that. That's why we moved there. And I'm okay. The first vision that, or revision that we saw was there were going to be houses along here. Single family houses.
Yes.
And I think the little purple things was going to be like a 2-story, maybe condo or townhouses, whatever you call them, something like that, which is directly in my backyard. And I'm okay with that. I understand that, progress has to happen and stuff, but 3 levels, I don't like that. And as far as him saying, he wants to do what the market calls for. Well, how many people do we need in this little community? I don't know. And are those going to be rentals or homeowner? Do we know? The condo things or the
You brought it,
townhouse?
so we'll bring that up and
We'll bring it up in the discussion. We'll,
Okay.
Great
I'm
questions.
taking notes
And
to address
do
it.
we know what this beige part is right there?
Yes.
What is it?
Well,
That little,
Those are single family.
they're
homes.
address
different
that
than
one.
the houses.
We'll address it when we get there. But thank you for your questions.
All right.
Yes, my name is Stacy Ward. I live at 1986 North, 225 West, in the Gulfview Townhomes. Part of the reason my family moved to this area, right in here, was, of course, there used to be a farmer's field, and we had unobstructed views of mountains from our backyard as it is with the townhomes. But I would just, I don't know, the size of these trees that are being proposed along here, how tall those are going to be. That I butcher, I mean, to look at the mountains from our backyard and to have that gone after 15 years. Would just be a shame, so thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
well. Robert Meckling, I'm at 126 East, 1875 North. Right up in, right there, top west corner area, right backs up right against the golf course. My biggest concern is drainage. I know the golf course had a stream that ran through that area, and so there's been a lot of surface water, groundwater that comes up into the window wells. And ever since they covered that over, it seems to have gotten worse. So my big concern is just proper drainage for the area. And I've talked to several of my neighbors along that same street, 1875 North, and their concern is also the drainage from that part of that area. So I'm expressing not only for myself, but a few other neighbors as well on drainage. Thank you.
Great, thank you.
Hello again, I'm Chris Kilpatrick. So I was wondering if there will be any access between the Gulfview townhouses on the proposed development, or what kind of barrier or fence will be installed between the two developments? This is the question.
Okay. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Valerie Gallegos. I live at 619 West, 2000 North. One of my main concerns is we have that ditch that goes between the north end of the golf course and our backyard, and they have diverted it, sorta, but sometimes we get flow in the ditch that we've had for 37 years, and then all of a sudden nothing. And then we get nothing but moss and stagnant water. And I called the city once to talk to someone, they never called me back. That's a big concern because now we have about this much water in it, and it's disgusting. It's mossy, frogs all over, and I can never get a straight answer as to what are you doing with the ditch. I think, oh, we're gonna cover it up, it's gonna be diverted, it's gonna be covered. But what happens to our properties that had the ditch to begin with? What do you do if the ditch is going to be on the south end of that fence? Then what happens to that hole that we're gonna have? I feel like if you guys are gonna dig the ditch or whatever, you should at least help us fill in that hole, because we could have access. We had to build our own bridge to get back there, but if that ditch is not going to be there, which is really sad because we have a lot of ducks, wildlife, cranes we've had back there. You know, we don't really have that anymore, and you know, but if it's not going to be there, I feel like we all would like help getting that ditch filled in so that we can use it productively and have access to the very back where it is. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Roger Schumann, live on 750 West. The backside of my property borders Highway 89. The other side is the golf course, or what used to be the golf course. Some of the frustrations that we've had since this whole thing took place is maybe the opposite of what the person just talked, but we have irrigation rights that come across that property. We've had nothing but headaches trying to get any of the developers, except for the last, I think this gentleman took over, and Sunrock came in and they actually did something about it. But we went for the first few years where we couldn't even get flow. And you know, as a planning commission, we were looking at developing a large parcel of property, because we shut down the piece of property from from being a golf course, they go in and mess up everything that was set up, even if it was probably garbage before, but then it's now even worse garbage with ginormous holes in the ground that are 10 or 12 feet deep from where the pump houses were torn down. And then the possibility of massive amounts of water to come in and run into some of the neighboring houses based off of the things that were done before. And there's been mitigation trying to be done to try to get it so that the people that own the water can actually use the water, which, like I said, Sunrock came in and did it with the permission of the owner, what I understood, and he actually cleared it all up and made it start to happen. I should have probably prepared more. I didn't realize there was going to be a 50-page document. I tried to go through 50 pages here real quick. And some of the things that looks to me like that you're changing this, or we're looking to change, is taking out commercial. You're going to be further ahead of the city if you can come up with a good commercial development to help attract sales tax. So we're not, as citizens, we're not having to come to the city for 100% plus tax increases because we can't afford to keep things moving in the right direction. So, you need to really give some strong thoughts to the commercial end of it. And I heard a little bit of the last meeting, and I think that you were on track on some of it. And do we want to change, what is it, from 649 to 664 in residential houses and get rid of as many of the commercial lots that were there? I would say let's add more commercial and take out less residential, or take out more residential. Thanks.
Thanks, Roger.
My name's Lisa Castleton. My front yard used to be the golf course, and right there, hole 9 was my place. I do miss the ducks, the wildlife. My concern is the flooding. We last year had to buy flood insurance. My structures have been there for 21 years, have never been even an issue with a flood zone. So it's already cost me hundreds of dollars for you guys to decide to do this. And it's just, that's not fair to me. So when it moved there, it wasn't a flood zone. Had it moved there during a flood zone, I probably would have picked somewhere else. So why the boundary of the flood zones changing? Is that still considered a flood zone on the golf course area?
There's a section that is, but that's out of our control.
So that's all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Dawn Murray. I live at 1777 400 West. My concern is, as someone mentioned previously, is the fencing along the golf course that's there right now. I'd like to know what that's going to look like. Currently, that fence is, I know at least by my place, a pretty hot mess. And I would like to have some separation from that and this development. So, thank you. Thanks.
My name's Harold Smoot. I live at 421 West, 1550 North. I'm really not here for my own personal situation, but I just want to express, and I know you guys already know this, but I'm just going to state it publicly, that the handling of water in our area is critical, regardless, right? And too often we see developers come in and try to cut corners on that. This area right over here Whoops, touch screen, sorry about that. That area right over there that got annexed into North Ogden, we all know why that happened, don't we? Do you guys know why that happened? Because we had a great mayor right back here, Oaks, and he wasn't going to allow basements over there because of the water problems. Well, guess what happened? North Ogden, I don't know, you guys know the story? North Ogden annexed that in. They put basements in there. And twice in my lifetime, I've been in Harrisville for 38 years now. I've been over there busting my back, helping people drag their furniture out of the basement a couple of times. There were 40 homes over there that sure enough got flooded. So all I'm suggesting is hold the contractor to the water problem, period. Do we have a city inspector? Do we have a city inspector? Great, because he needs to be over there making sure that they're not cutting those corners. And I'm not doing that to demean them at all. But this is a very serious problem that we have, and I hate seeing people that we're here representing the people that are going to move into our community. These people that I helped, I love all of them, and it was painful to know that we could not stop what happened to them from happening. We need to stop that. We need to stop doing that. We need to be responsible. Now, I do have one little beef in my area. There was a little project that went in behind me, about maybe 6 homes. And that developer promised that they wouldn't raise those lots higher than my lot. I'm now the flood in that area. I get all the water in my backyard. And I'm working with my neighbor to see if we're going to do a project to try to create a drainage there. The contractor should have done that. So all the water that was in that area now is pushed into my area. And I realize I'm way past, making that your responsibility. Somebody that was, had a beef might be able to do some kind of legal thing. I'm not that kind of a guy. But I do want to defend my future citizens here with regard to water. So no exceptions on the water. And no quick around to North Ogden again either, or to Plain City or anything like that. We gotta stop that kind of nonsense from happening. And these guys that come in and develop and think they've got a gold mine, they need to realize that they just bought a piece of swamp. And it's gonna cost more money to develop it. And it shouldn't be the responsibility of all the people that come behind that then have to spend thousands and thousands of dollars to put in the drain tile and all that could have been done during the development real easily. And I've watched this over and over, so let's be responsible on that.
Thank you.
Thanks, Rob.
My name's Mike Farrell. I live on 750 West, and I've lived here all my life. That ground, I used to hunt pheasants in it. And the water, the pond they got up there for the runoff is not big enough. They're gonna divert all the water down 6 Mile, and it's gonna flood my brother out, and all of us down there on the other side of the highway. You need more holding ponds, and you need it done right, just like they said, to where they don't flood people out.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mike.
Hi, my name is Kathleen Hohosh. I don't even live anywhere around that. I live on 1159 North 100 East. I'm not sure, because I was here at the city council meeting last night, and I'm not sure if the redevelopment is to make it into a PID. If it is, I would suggest you guys look over everything carefully. We're supposed to have affordable housing in our area, but in all the reading I've done on PIDs, it actually costs the homeowner more. Yeah, it's benefits to the city, there's pros there and the benefits with infrastructure, but is it a benefit to the homeowner to live in a PID? I would suggest if that's the way this is going, research it. Thanks, bye.
Thank you.
And there are do-overs here.
Sure.
Are you guys familiar with PIDs?
Yeah, but that's not our, we don't deal with that, the city council does.
And do you know if the city council is savvy on PIDs? Because they didn't ask one question about it last night, so they either really know it or they were just blindsided by it. But I was not impressed with that concept myself. I haven't studied it enough to be an expert on it, but I think we really ought to look into what that really means, right? Because again, these are our neighbors that are going to move in, and now they're going to have a taxation higher than ours because they just didn't know it. Yeah, I know. They're going to tell them that they're going to tell them. You know, it'll be written in fine print at the bottom, and then they're going to get their taxes, and they're going to wonder what the heck's going on. So I heard some pretty significant numbers compared to my taxes about that. So PID is something that we need to stay ahead of and see what's going on with that.
Just in case someone's mulling it over and hasn't decided if they want to come up yet.
I hear you. We were just saying, how long do we wait until we close this portion of the meeting?
Just making sure everyone has the opportunity.
Yep.
Hi, this isn't really my thing, but the new affordable housing initiative has been put forth by the governor and the state and stuff is for starter single family homes. Just throwing that out there.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Just a quick question, how this works. We have an open forum before we heard any discussion, and then it closes, and then you guys discuss, and it feels like we're disconnected at that point. Is that the format? Like if something comes up
You get the time to
later
talk
on when you
now,
guys are
and then-
collaborating, and then all of a sudden it triggers a thought in our head that we didn't even think about, we're stuck at that point with the voice. Is that how it works?
That's generally how it works, yeah.
So
If
open
times
discussion,
we-
not really
Yeah.
open discussion.
Yeah, that's how it is right
Just
now.
trying to understand how this meeting works.
We
It
have-
felt to me like city council last night, one person talking at a time, but there was only little segments that people could say anything, and you couldn't ever come back and recircle around on it. So I wouldn't call it a discussion, you know.
Thank you for your comment. In the past, left it open. Public hearing.
Well, how much leeway do we have with that?
We don't.
Okay, I don't think so.
Okay.
We need a recommendation one way or the other.
Right.
Right. We just have in the past, so.
I'd love to see it this back though, so thank you for your interest in coming tonight.
No one's coming up. I'll motion that we close this public hearing.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
That was all of us. Public hearing is closed. That moves us on to number 6, which is discussion action recommend to discuss ordinance 560, an ordinance amending and restating the master development agreement for Ben Lomond Views Subdivision. Okay. None of the changes I saw dealt with the fence specifically.
Yes, that was one of them.
The drainage could be affected by the flexibility depending on what they do. We don't want any buildings in the floodplain in part due to that. Other concerns to the changes, we don't deal with the PID here. It's not planning commission's space.
Yeah, water and fencing were definitely the two main concerns.
And the height of the street trees.
Yes, the height of the, I had that too on the north
I
railing.
think they tried to amend out, but I think we need to keep in. So if we get rid of exhibit 04, we should keep the street trees and get rid of the rest. That was the
You just
landscaping
rattled
one.
those letters and numbers. Good for you.
Yeah, well, that was the one that dealt with the landscaping, and they wanted to delete the whole thing, but that's where the street trees are mentioned. And I feel like we need that. Reason that, so they said they go to the city standards, but this would become, or is, the MDA is the city standard for this parcel.
That part of the city, right?
Because the master development agreement for the mixed use becomes the code for the parcel. So that exhibit is the city code for the parcel at the moment. Street trees probably aren't going to be cottonwoods and obstructing community views, but they might get 20 feet tall. I don't know. How are street trees going to get?
It depends on what variety of tree was.
Right.
The city has a list of
Justin,
trees.
We have a list of
address
approved
that,
things.
please.
Thank you.
Really quick, partly the reason and the discussion of the street trees are because we're looking at our new city standard sidewalk that goes at back of code.
Right.
And eliminating to be more fiscally and responsible with our water.
Right, but
Right,
could we
park
put them in the
strips,
front yard?
Park strips create a lot of water that just goes into the curb and gutter or on the sidewalk with cement, right?
Right.
So again, it's not eliminating the street trees, it's addressing the placement of
Right.
where those trees. So they'll actually be in the front yard behind the sidewalk.
But we need a standard that says that, or they just won't be there.
We have that standard in the public works standard.
Okay.
So you would just go road, sidewalk.
Again,
Yep.
Yes.
what we're addressing is the changes to the MDA, correct? Which
Yes.
still, the unadopted sections, or the sections that have not been fully approved through the city standards yet, will still have to go through all that process. So
Right.
the 2A, 2D, we've already addressed those and shown them on the actual engineered drawings.
Right.
So the MDA, yes, is an overall look,
Right.
but it still has to engineering meet the city's standards and functions.
Right.
There were a couple of you that expressed interest about the line of houses going on the east side there, separating the North Ogden from the Harrisville. And I'm not sure what kind of fencing will go in there. That's something that's still part of our discussion. But the houses just on the other side of that are going to be single family, 2-story at most, and
Those
they're
white
going to
boxes
be.
aren't built houses. The houses that are existing are on the other side of those houses from the road, from the little pink section, which is townhomes that I think were 3 stories there. And the peach colored section is single family homes. But that white section there is also single family homes that have yet to be built.
And
So
they're,
as far
they're
as
the
that
larger.
buffer goes, you're not going to have the townhomes in your backyard. You'll have those houses in your backyard, and then the townhomes on the other side. Assuming it stays the way it is, because part of what they wanted to change was increasing flexibility to move those around, which if they did, then there could be townhomes there, but they weren't looking at changing that section. Jenny, you have a comment, so.
I was just going to point out that a lot of the concerns that were brought up in the public comments are related to the subdivision requirements. That
right.
entire development has to go through the subdivision process.
Right.
The amendments are related to the master development agreement. We
Right.
did have an hour-long work session, started at 6 p.m. that was geared towards all of these amendments that
Right.
are up for your approval or recommendation this evening. And there are
Right.
a few other amendments that we didn't get to during that discussion. So I'm not sure if you want to invite the developer back up to continue
Not quite yet.
reviewing those.
Not quite yet.
And I'm happy to address any of these related public comments that you have, but a lot of them are related to the
Most of
subdivision
them
process.
don't necessarily address the changes themselves, because the master development agreement as it is includes all of this. And there isn't access in currently into the townhomes or through to that road or to anywhere else in it. That was just going to be fenced off for the road on the east side.
Could we leave this up for 5 or 10 minutes after our meeting so that if people have questions, they can come up and we can chat with them about it?
I mean,
Yes,
just
we're
questions
not
about the
chatting.
legend?
No.
No,
Like,
questions
well,
about.
I know, I'm just, that's what I'm saying.
Just so they could come up and take a look at it.
Yeah.
And see if we
I
can
don't know.
explain it to them.
I don't know if we can explain it to them after the meeting.
This is all available online and they can
Yeah.
tell the public where they can find the
Okay.
maps.
Yeah.
That would be great.
Yeah. So as far as the changes.
Okay, so if we forward this on with a positive recommendation to the city council, can we forward it along with some recommendations?
Absolutely.
Okay, that's what
We're
you're,
going to have to change a few things.
right, maybe we have to start going and discussing recommendations.
Well, I don't like it as it is. I feel like there are things that need to change.
Like just keeping
Like
the
the
4,000
600,
square foot.
the 4,000 square foot. I don't think we can do 3,000. We need to keep the 4,000. I don't care about the setbacks.
Which, I don't remember which number designation we had with the language change that we were discussing with Jason earlier about, there was some ambiguity in the language that was written into the amendment that we were discussing about having a clarifying statement.
About the land uses? That
No,
section.
well, yes. I just don't remember what section number that was.
So the
I
land
didn't print
use
all
section was,
146
I didn't
pages.
print all the pages either, but the section with my land use concerns is the addition to section 2.3. And also he wants to move the locations. I think that's the point of the master plan, is to show the general location of everything. So giving ambiguity makes me wonder what we have left. Also, we need to keep it at the 649, just.
Oh, yeah, the
it needs
best
to be
units,
649,
which we have,
unless the floodplain gets mitigated, the floodplain map changed and everybody got flood insurance because FEMA updated their map. It's the blue shaded section on there.
Which,
also-
like you mentioned earlier, we have zero control over.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, the only way to mitigate that is if they were to do the culvert pipe or something. And other than that, shouldn't be any new buildings in there. Although the townhomes, as you'll notice, have that shaded blue. That's the new floodplain map that puts all of them in flood insurance as well.
so regarding the amendments that we didn't get to, I know we brought up needing to talk about the park for a minute. So that's one thing I know for sure we need to cover.
Yeah.
And then, so do you want to do that right now? Or,
We could do that, it's just
great, let's do
information.
that. That's
Have
just what I
Jason
know for
come
sure
up.
we need to
Would
do.
you mind coming up?
Come up and-
Let's just discuss the park for a minute.
I would love to. I thought you were never going to ask.
Thank you so much.
We'll get to you.
Thanks for your patience.
Yeah, no problem. I'm happy to be here. Yeah. Where do you want to start?
Okay, so we've talked in the past about the park itself and how there are modifications that will be made that the city will take over the function of maintaining the park. That's something you want out of the MDA, am I correct on that, right?
As it relates just to Millennium Park.
Just to Millennium Park, right? Okay, so maybe you could just talk about specifically the kinds of changes that you are going to be a part of and will make in Millennium Park.
Okay, yeah, so as it relates directly to Millennium Park, there is a marriage of sorts, right, in the document that brings a homeowners association and the city together with different responsibilities. Homeowners associations are difficult as it is, right? When you create a relationship that can create some additional conflict where they're not seeing eye to eye, and there's maybe not a lot of understanding. You hold for example, you might hold a carnival or something at your public park, the city puts it on, damages something, the homeowners association under the document is now required to make the repairs, right? So we looked at it, and again, it's interesting being like the new guy coming to it, right, and looking at it with maybe a fresh look. We looked at that and we said, geez, like we deal with a lot of homeowners associations. This is a nightmare waiting to happen. And we looked at what the developer, or I'm sorry, the owner, and well, I guess developer, you guys are doing some great things, are doing on the improvements of the park right now. And we said, man, those are pretty awesome. And so we just said, look, that make the improvements. This is good for that park, and are fantastic improvements to the park. Let's divorce that HOA and city relationship, and keep the other parks for the homeowners association. Those will be private parks maintained by the owners within this community, and the city park remain a city park for everyone, and not create that conflict. So in our proposal in the master development agreement changes that you'll see that there's an elimination of that marriage, but the requirement to complete the improvements to Millennium Park remains.
Right. That it was going to be basically an HOA park with a public access, which was creating a conflict. So I don't mind taking the park out of this thing, because the HOA doesn't have to maintain it. That I'm not concerned with.
Do you want me to comment on some of the things that I heard in your conversation
please,
as well? Okay. So as far as the MDA is concerned as it relates to the landscaping, right? What we proposed to remove from that was all of the additive things. So what's the master development agreement isn't replacing your code. It actually it adds more requirements to your code. That's the purpose of the master development agreement. So all we were saying in that is, let's use your existing code for those requirements as it relates to landscaping and those sorts of things. Because there were so many things that were just added to it that is just fluff,
right?
And not meaningful. So we said, let's eliminate that, which didn't mean let's eliminate all the street trees. It meant we'll follow your city standards that relates to the street trees. I like street trees. But it's funny because we've had conversations about the downfalls of street trees. Where this MDA and these revisions don't propose something drastic in that way. It basically says that hey, you don't have to. You don't need to tell us which type.
There's equivalent of street trees in their front yard. So that's all I wanted. You can take out the rest of 04. Just keep the statement that says we'll have street tree equivalents on the other side of the sidewalk. The landscaping.
Yeah, my understanding is your city standard has landscape requirements. So yes, that will take place.
Jason, any discussion on what type of fencing would go in on that east side there? Do you have any ideas?
Yeah, so we're not proposing any amendments to fencing. Okay. And I apologize. My mind was on this, not some of the other requirements as it relates to the actual construction documents. And so I don't remember what the city requirement is there.
That's right.
But
I apologize.
So the fence that is in the changes is the fence slash berm. I noticed in 2.6, no, that's the wrong one. Where is it? Exhibit 01. You've got number 5, which says you're not required to install both a fence and a berm, and it says you may select one screening method if you choose. I think you need to get rid of the if you choose. Also, there's a typo, you spelled one with a W. Anyway, and put one or the other. I went to BYU too. So. Anyway, I think you need to do at least one. I don't know if you have to do both, but there should be one or the other, not if you choose.
The intent, yes, is one or the other. So
Right.
we're happy to clean that up.
Perfect. That takes care of that page. So as far as buildings in the floodplain, you wanted to move the clubhouse there. Currently, there's 15 potential houses there.
So let me clarify. Wanted, not necessarily.
Okay.
Possibility to
We're just saying
adjust.
that we should be allowed some flexibility in the plan.
Right.
At the end of the day, we know that we want to go and look at this, flooding and drainage issue. And we don't have the solutions now.
Right.
But a possible solution to that is to not put any homes in that area.
Right. And
Build the
until it's
clubhouse.
mitigated.
We've talked with your city staff about that. And so that, those are all considerations. And so it's not, we're not proposing that this is happening. We're just proposing that there's an option for us to look at that as a solution. And then as it relates to the unit count, right, because I've heard that come up a few times. We are not proposing, right, to increase density in this project, right? There is, there's, in the current MDA document, it talks about 2 unit types, right?
Right.
A portion of those unit types, is it 15? Do I remember that right? Are designated as sort of these floodplain lots, right? We're vested in that document to build those. We just have to go through a step to unlock them by removing the floodplain, correct?
Yes.
So no, we're not increasing density in our proposal. We're saying, well, one option, right, is to go unlock that by changing the floodplain. Another option is that we'll just move them out of that way. That could become an additional park area. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So we're not increasing density. We need to be really clear about that. We also, there was a question about we're removing the commercial from the property. That is also not the proposal. It is to keep the commercial property. And our proposal is to only say, what is the best way to make it the most viable commercial in the property? And that flexibility that we ask for in the MDA is how is that. So we think we're really actually improving what's already there. I do want to also make one other comment for those who, I apologize up front if you actually go read this, but if you do, I don't like them at the axe to you. This is weird, so I apologize. And my back of my head isn't very nice either. So in this document, we found a lot of issues with the document, right? There were things that the way a good contract works, which this MDA is a contract with the developer and the city, right? Is that the document spells out the details. The exhibits help explain the details.
Right.
And this was a reversed document, right? The details were in the exhibits, and the document itself actually didn't even say things. So when you go through and you see a lot of red lines, we're actually adding in references to what was missed. So it feels like a lot more than it is. But I think that's good for the residents here to know as they go through and read that.
Yeah, thanks for that clarification. When we all got our 146-page packet for tonight, I was picking up on some of that so that we could make sure that we
just cleaning. We're doing some cleaning,
learning and reading everything correctly. So, did we find the section that specifically addresses the flexibility, and also what amendments are we missing still, Jenny, that we haven't discussed? Are there any we haven't covered between the work session and this meeting?
I can't think of any, Jason, you.
I know we addressed
I'm just
things
jumping out. I mean, I'm going to do a quick
categorically.
scan here, but I do
Okay.
want to, your first question, which is what's the section?
So that was the one we were talking about language and.
Yeah, under the definition of intended uses, right, there was an addition in there. And it basically says this, that the land use plan may be altered as long as the intended uses and other development rights permitted herein comply with the intent of the MDA, and that the maximum residential units, which is that number we talked about, shall not be exceeded for the overall project. So I believe we are being very clear that we're not intending to go create something new, right? We are saying the intent of the MDA is clear. We have the map is in there, and we're just asking for the flexibility that it that allows us to operate within all of the intended uses.
I think that there's enough
Does that help?
language. Yes, thank you.
Okay.
I think there's enough language as stated that would allow it to go to the city council, and that if they felt like there needs to be a clarifying statement at that point, because we're making a recommendation to the city council,
Yes.
right?
Yeah, so we do make sure it stays before that.
Yeah, so 4,000.
I know that keeps more.
649, whether or not, because they have to go to the
Yeah, 649. We
national
can-
agency.
We can keep the 15 in there, but they need to be locked on condition of the floodplain. That's the incentive for that.
Which,
If
And
we
isn't that
develop
written?
in that area.
Is that already written in?
It was written in, but they took it out.
Designated as a floodplain.
Okay.
It was written
By a
in.
national agency. Yeah, so you're gonna have to dance with the government.
Yeah, so your city code,
Right.
and I was told this very explicitly, right, which we have to comply with,
Right.
does not allow residential structures in floodplain.
Right.
So that's ultra clear.
Right.
So the amendments in the MDA do not change that.
I just don't want them moved elsewhere without it being mitigated.
Okay?
So
What would
those
be the
15
reason for that?
units.
What happens if you move them elsewhere and you leave it as open space?
Well, you'd have to move something else in there, and I don't know that there's space to put 15 units elsewhere with the 4,000 square foot lots minimum.
But if they
So I
had
don't know
them,
that there's a space for that.
that
If we move the
could,
clubhouse over to that
Yeah,
area.
but
there
do you
would be
want to
some
build a
area there.
clubhouse
Yeah,
in a floodplain?
sure.
it's a slab, it doesn't have a basement, so that'd be easy to deal with.
Yeah, I mean, the likelihood
In
that
my
we're gonna have.
You're actually
a
allowed to
500-year
raise your
storm.
elevation
Yes.
above the floodplain.
Yeah, yes.
So
I can't see that.
The other concern with moving the clubhouse over is I don't think the clubhouse area is as big as the floodplain area.
Well, and they don't know for sure if they're
So-
going to do that, they
Well,
want
right.
the option to
The
explore it.
flexibility to do that, plus the pickleball courts, and tennis courts, and, pool, and.
Yeah,
I'm
if
just
we move
teasing.
it, we actually get more room for those things.
Right.
There are some really fantastic trade-offs here, and I get that change is hard, but we are not proposing change to make it worse. We're proposing changes
Yes.
to make it better.
Agreed.
Yep.
Agreed. I hear exactly what
Is
you're
it going to be a
Take park.
headache for you to fit the 4,000 square feet?
Should we talk about it?
Yeah,
Sure.
please. What's a good argument for going down to 3?
So a good argument for going down to 3 is, what's the reason we can't? So we've built it in lots of other cities, right? And the reason why I like that edit is because, like we said, like we talked about earlier, we can do a little bit of trade-offs. If I take an area like this floodplain area, right, and instead of I can basically take a townhome, right? Here's maybe a better way to do it. Let's say we take some 50-foot frontage lots, right? And we take those down to a small lot. I can either add that to somewhere else because I can build a single-family home on a 3,000-foot lot, no problem, right? So it just gives me the opportunity to create more of one thing and maybe take away from another area where I could actually create more single-family homes in a scenario where the lot size gets smaller, right, by reducing the number of townhomes. that is the biggest reason that we'd like to have that as an option. Again, I don't know where we'll land with that, but what is the reason that you're concerned about it?
It's too small. The
According
4,000
to,
I'm not concerned, so I'm going to listen.
With the size of lots in Harrisville, it's a significant reduction already to go to 4,000. I think going to 3,000 allows all of the houses to be in that area squished a little too much together, and you're taking something from somewhere else. I like to have, I mean, even if it's common space in their backyard, to have that space per unit to spread out that residential area rather than compacting it in. I don't mind switching up the ratio of townhomes and houses, although the borders should probably still remain houses. I don't think we want to give you flexibility on those just for buffering for the other residents. That's why they were there.
I think that would actually be a great clarification, because that's, you have no sense
That's
there.
exactly right.
I like that, and I think that's a great thing to add to your motion.
Not give you the flexibility on the border there.
Now, if we got really radical though, right, because we're crazy, and my wife, when I go home tonight, she's gonna say, did they call you evil? And I'm gonna say, well, they implied it, right? That's the challenge, right, is when developers come in and we make proposals, we're the bad guys. And I'm sorry for that.
You're not the bad guy.
Well, we'll find out when we're done here, right? But if we got really crazy, right, and we said, okay, well, Philstone, you're going to come in and make all 3,000-foot lots. Well, based on the criteria of the MDA, which is we cannot exceed the maximum number of residential units, what does that mean? Well, that means you have more open space, right?
Yeah.
So when I sort of challenge you a little bit on the 3,000-foot lot rule, all we're talking about is trade-offs. And when you allow more opportunity and affordability was brought up, right? If I can create a single family home rather than a townhome and make it more affordable, I think that's a cool thing, right? So if it's possible, and we do it all the time, why not allow it? And I get that maybe it's not been done in Harrisville before, but that doesn't mean it can't be done in Harrisville now. And so that, when you say make your pitch, that's my pitch, right? We'll make something bigger if something gets smaller. If something gets smaller, we'll make something bigger. I mean, it all works out because of the maximum number of residential units. And we are not proposing to change it.
As you've looked at the map, where would you propose doing the 3,000-foot lots? Just out of curiosity.
So
everywhere.
If I, no, not everywhere.
You can't do it.
This is not a bad plan.
No, so remember how in our work session, he talked about in the northeast corner, if they had the flexibility granted to them, they would be able to decide, do we keep these all twin homes? Do we do a portion as twin
They can
homes?
do
a
that
portion
with
as
their
single
existing
family?
lot size though.
Yes, they
So-
can, but I'm just saying, I've
You get where
I've
I'm
gone
going.
to a number of these in a lot of cities, and I've seen them work well, and anyway.
That's right. And I mean, if you're really pushing me here and you say, hey, just go put a point on the map, right? When I look at this plan, and we've got in this area I've pointed out before, up here,
Yeah.
right, where we've got extra alleyways that we don't necessarily need because we've got roads that will handle the homes, right? In that, I look at that and I say, oh, I can make that more efficient, right? And if I can make it more efficient and I add 3,000 square foot lots in that area, then I can take away some of those townhomes and add more single family homes. When I look at that map, that's what comes to my mind. Am I proposing to do it? No, right? I'm proposing in this MDA to allow us the option. It's important, right? To
Okay,
successful development.
so if I could just clarify one thing. I mean, because I think it's important that we operationalize what we mean by flexibility.
Okay.
And what I hear you saying is that primarily, if not mostly, all the flexibility that you want granted for the development of this whole thing is really on the north and the east end of this development. Am I mostly, right?
That's
Okay.
the way I see it. That's
Okay.
exactly right.
Okay. All right.
How does the flexibility and the changing of the uses and everything relate to the roads? Can we lock the roads in place and say they have to stay where they are? And
Why?
let you change everything else?
You
I don't
can.
think we need to.
You can, but why? So when we go, the cool thing about the process here, right, is you create a standard that we say, hey, these are the rules that kind of govern, but you go figure it out, right? And when you come to us and you go to your construction drawings and you go to start to plat the property, that's when we lock it in, right? Because that's when it's important.
Right.
Will it service the community? Does it provide enough access?
I think if
Are the
you-
roads big enough? That's when it matters. It
Right,
doesn't matter in the
with
NDA.
a few of the main roads need to stay that way for connectivity. And also,
And-
I want to
and-
keep the
and for
commercial
clarity-
there, and that, those roads intersecting there will help it.
Yeah, so for clarity, the land use plan, right, refers to the uses,
Right.
not the roads. So,
Okay.
so
So it's not
I
changing that.
I
just wanted
challenged
to
you on
make
that,
sure.
not because we're changing it, because I want you to think about it.
Right.
When's the right time to worry about that? That's later, but we're not proposing to change it.
With that one.
There was,
Facility one. In Exhibit C, I think we should just take out the clubhouse area rather than changing everything to permitted in it.
What do you mean exactly?
So it's the permitted and not permitted uses in the subzones, if you will, where they've got the single family and multifamily, and there's this column for the HOA clubhouse. We should just remove that because you really shouldn't be building detached single family
recognized that
dwellings
in
on
your
the
circle.
clubhouse.
I put that in
Oh,
my.
So there's in
as well.
two sections, and this section has some change to permitted uses, and the other table has, we should take this one out. We should take it out of both tables, instead of leaving it in one and taking it out of the other.
Yeah, I just remember that in your land use table, right, they call out a clubhouse as a land use, and it's not.
Right.
So I'm saying, get rid of that.
Yep.
It's its own special open space.
Okay.
And it just needs to be
So that
removed.
gets-
Okay, I have.
I don't think we need section
Positive
2.8.
recommendation. With the conditions.
Well, that's my question, is how do we know what we're voting for at this point?
Well, all of these changes and the changes we don't want to.
Well, that's what I say, we've talked about things we like and things we don't like, so what is it at this point?
Right, so that's what I'm.
What changes do you want to keep? What changes do you like?
Line item
What
or-
do we want to make sure that this
Yes.
stays in the MDA, that's what's.
And if we make a motion that has the things that have to not fit the current red lines, because what we're doing is we're recommending forward the.
So what you would want to do is make a motion to
Amending and restating it with the
recommend.
red lines as
Right.
discussed with these red lines
Right.
being
This
required and those ones
discussed
not.
further.
You would accept anything that has been proposed in the MDA, and you would call out anything you want changed in the motion.
Yeah.
Right.
So anything that's already been proposed to be changed in the MDA is part of the assumption of your recommendation. If you want to make a change to that, you would call that portion out in your motion.
And then we would vote on sending that.
Is this one that they removed, or is that one that you want removed?
That's one they added and I want removed. Section 2.8, I don't think it's necessary. It's on the project amenities that states that everything on the exhibits is
Clubhouse,
for,
amenities provided, constructed.
yeah, they're representations.
As an option, not the
Guarantees or
obligation, that's the thing.
requirements.
Language.
And I don't think that section is necessary.
Can I
Yeah.
tell you why that one's important?
Yeah,
Yes.
sure, but, I mean, just the language, I understand that, but it's not the obligation for the clubhouse.
Yeah, so the clubhouse in the current MDA, right, only shows up in the exhibits. It's not written into the document, right? So I felt like it was important to be a little more explicit here, right? So The reason why we added a section is to say, hey, this is something that's been visioned in the drawings, but there's no requirement for it, and I just said it explicitly. It's really important.
I don't think there's a
So
need
make
to
it
remove
one
it.
sentence.
I think it's probably exactly where it needs to be for legal and development and funding purposes, and so on, etc. That's my guess. But is that correct?
That's correct.
He probably addresses everything. Because remember how he had to flip the exhibits in the language of the document. So now they are not only doing future work, they're trying to
I just
like
don't
some
think
catch
it's
up.
necessary, and if it is necessary, just say the exhibits are representations and put a period. The other next thing, sorry, I have lots of revisions. In 2710, you've removed a section that in 2711 is basically taken care of. So where it says any development area sold by the master developer to a sub-developer shall include transfer of a specified portion of the units, and for any non-residential use, specify the amount and type of such units. So you took that out, but then in 2711, it talks about those. So any development rights transferred, and they're unused, and you'll have that development report that shows what's used and not used. And I don't know that there's a need to take it out of 2710 if your development report is already going to give us that information that is no longer specified in 2710.
If I remember correctly, I'll have to find it. But it's because in that section, it actually didn't make sense to the document, right? So that's why it gets clarified somewhere else in a more appropriate way. Right?
It was just already in the next section, so
Yeah.
just taking it out of that.
Which is something you want to always consider when you're writing a good document, right? Is you don't want multiple, you want to say the same thing in lots of different areas because it creates ambiguity, right? You want to say it in one area, that's why you have the definition section, and you don't say it again. It always, you follow the same definition. And what happened in that section is that it created ambiguity, and so we cleaned it up.
Okay.
So I'm suggesting that as we forward this along with the public recommendation, we have them look at the square footage, that we give them the flexibility, particular flexibility, not local flexibility.
Okay.
And I think we can marry that sort of thing. That we leave out the park, that the language for either a berm or a fence along 89 be clarified.
I think all they needed to remove there was the if you choose, if they choose, like it was a 3-word phrase.
Right, right, but just clarifying the language in that. And that we keep the commercial, I like the idea of looking at alternatives, but I want to keep commercial in the center as well.
You can change what that looks like, but in the
Right.
center.
Right. Well, yeah.
So some commercial in the center.
Yeah.
I would say all of it.
That's one of their major amendments, was to allow for flexibility to move some of it. Is that correct?
Right.
But I don't know about moving it to the highway. We wanted to keep it off the highway. And I don't know that it would function well the way GDOT gives access.
Yeah. Well, what I don't want, I mean, I'm okay with putting it on 89. What I don't want is all of it on 89.
I don't think they do either.
The majority of it.
Right, which is where I think we can marry this sort of thing, because I want people to have an experience when they go down there, and I want it to be different.
So we want a town center to be maintained.
Right, with commercial. In the center, but thinking about the possibility of having commercial along 89, I think we can include that as part of the flexibility, right? And then along the east side, to not change
just the borders. They can change
the houses, because that was one of the things that we did specifically in all of our previous agreements, is we wanted larger homes on that east buffer end, so that when the neighbors looked at it, they wouldn't see townhomes or condominiums that there was a continuation, and that would be the buffer, and then we would move into the smaller homes after the road, and et cetera, et
And I
cetera.
think instead of saying keep the east side, just say keep the buffer from existing properties.
Well,
So not,
Well, we don't want
So
that.
we want
We don't want them to change
The
lot size
southeast
either.
corridor along 400 West
Yeah, we don't want,
well, that'll help
as
keep
laid
the
out.
buffer.
keep the lot size and the home size as proposed on that
Yeah.
east side.
Well, they can change the northeast side though.
Yeah, but this is the southeast.
So that's the thing.
Right.
is We want to
So the
specify
lower-
what part
the lower
of the east
east.
side, if we're gonna fix the east side.
Lower
What
east
did
side
I
sounds
say?
very
Maintain.
urban of us. Just saying.
Well, it's gonna be our downtown.
Okay, all right, was there any others?
Were there any other ones that you had?
We mentioned
This
the
is huge.
street tree equivalents.
I mean, I love the fact, Jason, that you are condensing it, you're clarifying, you're taking out unnecessary things. And I also love the fact that you love the way it is, and I love the fact that you could tweak it and make it better. Which I think we need to give you the flexibility to do, just within
one other.
parameters.
We need to get you a technical writer intern.
I think the construction timing
This is a lot.
still
It's a lot
needs
for
to be
everybody.
with it. We could start it at the 85%, but it needs to get started during the residential phases. So we need to
You don't like that.
return at least a portion of that to say you've started it during the residential section.
Well, you know what? You know
You're
what?
focused on the wrong goal. You're
Yeah.
focused on the wrong goal. Like, what do you want? Do you want your commercial to be viable? Then think about what the commercial needs, not what you need.
Right.
Focus on the right goal.
But it-
So tell me the percentages that you just said again.
So, as it used to be, the first half of the commercial had to be started at 70%, once 70% of the houses were built. And then the other half had to be started at 85. I think at least some of it needs to be started there, especially if we're giving them flexibility on the location, to make sure there is a location for commercial. Because if you started and you've moved everything else around, who knows what will be left afterwards.
So
Yeah, there may be some acreage, but I'd like that to get started at some point. We could,
So from a development standpoint, it sounds like with removing that, you would like to be able to cater more to the commercial side, saying it's more of a build to suit. Is that
Yes.
what you're saying? Versus if they keep all of it in, build, and then the business has to suit themselves to the existing buildings?
Yeah,
Yes.
It's
See, and
it's
that's
built
what
to suit
flexibility
or
is.
zone to hope, right? Like,
Mhm.
what is it that you want? And that's why I question you on, do you want the commercial to be the most viable that it can be? And we, our job then, if you give us the flexibility to go figure that out, well then to go court people and say we need to develop this commercial land. We want to because we're zoned for it and we own the land.
Yeah.
So
what if we-
where's the best place to put it?
Mhm.
And I would even venture to say that 2000 North, right, which connects 89 to what's the main road out here? Washington, right? That actually connects. It's a pathway. It's a way to get from point A to point B. When you require the commercial to be internal to a project, right? People are going out of their way to get there because they're not following the major corridors. Again, I don't know where it should go right now. If it can go in the town center and somebody comes to us and says, yeah, that's it, then I will eat crow and I'll say, come on in, right? I could be wrong, but the information I presented to you earlier, I used facts. I didn't use anything anecdotal.
Did you do any studies about, because everything you quoted was, Chick-fil-A, Taco Bell, et cetera, et cetera. Did you look into city center type foot traffic and what trips they need, for that type of business?
Well, you mentioned Daybreak earlier, but
That's right.
I didn't know if there were any others that were cited at another time.
No, but I did, while I was sitting here, I was kind of panning around all the communities, right? Looking for town center sitting in the middle of a neighborhood, and I couldn't find any.
I think it's just because it's not zoned for it. We don't allow it. You know, we're kind of being revolutionary here by trying to be the first city in the.
You're being revolutionary
to try.
in your thought process, but again, are you thinking about the commercial tenant? At the end of the day, that person who's going to buy and have and operate a business. Put yourself in those shoes, and then make a decision.
Yeah, no, I hear you, and that's why I think we have to find a way to marry those two thoughts, because.
Make your recommendation.
Yes.
I just want you to know, I just want you to hear all of the
Yes.
points and understand that this is much bigger than, you know.
No, I understand.
Because we did it. Right?
I think it needs to be in the center, and I think could we put the construction starts at 100% and they have to start it when they finish all of the houses? I just think there needs to be something in there that says they're going to start building it.
The thing that concerns me is that you've given yourself potentially a 15-year window to complete all of these projects. And the other thing I'm concerned about is if the governor wants housing, lower income housing, he wants it sooner than later. And having a 10-year, 15-year plan is not going to meet that need.
Well, that's a misunderstanding though, right? Because you're saying, hey, the governor says to do this, right? But is he saying to do it and not have the project work? Right? No, the governor, when he says, I want 35,000 homes in 5 years that are starter homes, right? You have to go solve for that. And you have to say, what will it take to get there?
Right.
In this case, this project before me and before everybody else was approved. We didn't apply the governor's new methodology to this project. Because if we did, you'd have a more dense project.
Yeah, it sounded like Steve was trying to marry both of those together. Anyway,
So,
that's not for here.
so are you saying with the time frame that you don't want it to be like on year 14 or 15 is when the commercial apartments get started?
Yeah,
right?
because we have a housing crisis now, and the housing crisis is only going to get worse as we move along, because more people are going to be moving here. We've got the children that are growing up in our area that can't find housing, they have to move out of the city in order to find housing. And so we need something now, and 10 to 15 years is too long.
Yeah, but you need to understand why the 10 to 15 years, right?
Right.
That's just so we don't come back to this table, right, and try to adjust because something happened, right? If you're accurate, which you are, about the market and about the need, well, I was already accused of being for profit, right? What is the incentive for us greedy developers to buy a piece of land, sit on it, and not develop the homes that everybody wants?
Right.
I don't know why we're the bad guys. Right. Because you all live in a home that we built for you, right? This is what we do. We put families in homes.
Right.
We don't rob people.
No, I totally get it.
No, you're the supply chain of the construction.
Right, I totally get it.
Just get dumped on.
I totally get
That's how
it.
it is.
So
the time frame is just to make sure that there's enough time.
you're just giving yourself a buffer.
Yes.
Okay.
Just a buffer.
Okay, so
but it won't be that way.
No, no. I mean, based on where we're going right now, I hope that we sell out of it in a couple of years.
Thank you.
One more timing comment.
Okay.
2.71. At least one more. All right. So you crossed out in a timely manner and wrote when it is economically and market feasible to do so. I think you should get rid of that edit in order to keep 271 through 273, because without it being in a timely manner, that's probably economically feasible to do. There's not the city desiring the assurances that you're going to do it because you're giving yourself too much time, which really, if you're going to keep that in, you should just get rid of 271 to 273.
Your assurance is that we zoned it that way. That's your assurance. The only way to get out of that is for me to come back and ask for you to change it. And you will always have complete, full discretion, right? Zoning is at the complete discretion of your city council. So that's the only way we get out of that obligation. So we're not, again, we're not trying to get out of it. We're saying, go ahead and zone this. Like, we're committing to that 2.5 acres of commercial land within the property.
It's to their financial interest to build these homes as quickly as possible.
Oh yeah, there's no incentive for them to go slow.
But we need the commercial to get built as well. And I think
Yes.
if we don't have a time,
Yes.
do we put when 100% of the houses are done, the commercial will commence by then?
Or even
So-
before.
Any
So you
condition in
mentioned-
this way is not gonna work. You can put whatever you want because you're the recommending body and you've gotta do that. And I'm not telling you to not do what you feel like is right. But it's a deal killer. This is a big issue in this particular agreement. I mean, think about going out to all of your residents have commented on the vacant commercial land, right? Thinking about going out to them and saying, we're gonna pass a new zoning ordinance where every commercial property that's zoned commercial needs to start within X. What is that delivering you? A whole bunch of gray shell vacant commercial land. And what you're talking about right now is, hey, let's do it in Ben Lomond.
Well, I think we need that gray shell, just like in the junction. It may take a while to fill.
I don't know.
But I think it needs to
The
be
massive
there
gray
to
shell that we
start.
have up the highway north that was built on spec and it's just sitting there empty
Where's this?
in Pleasant View, up just south of Utah Dance Academy.
Oh, okay.
The massive commercial space that has huge for sale signs that have been there for a couple of years.
Yes, that they just built.
So that's just another example of we're gonna just build something so it's not an empty lot.
Right. No,
I don't know the whole story there. I'm just saying it's an
Right,
empty shell
just
sitting there.
saying. Right. Okay, I'm ready to, are you okay? Go ahead and move on. I mean,
Okay. Part of my money, I've got concerns, but I think you've addressed most of them. I do think that
Thank you. I mean, I
section
don't
really,
appreciate you. Thank you for bringing up.
I
these
don't think it
concerns.
would make much of a difference for them to take out this section and just leave it in a timely manner.
That's it.
Yeah.
Okay, the sequencing and relationship of residential and commercial.
I think what the city is incentivizing in 271 through 273 is the timely manner, and if it's not, then we don't need to incentivize it.
So I think leaving out in a timely manner is great because it's completely ambiguous and means nothing to anybody.
Well,
But
it might be better than to leave them that ambiguity there and keep it in than to put that in and.
Okay, so take out, leaving the timely manner, and what section is that into?
it's in
I
2.7.1.
want to keep in a timely manner and take out
Oh,
the
you want to keep
economic
it.
and feasibility.
He wants to keep it,
Yeah.
and I don't want to keep it. But we don't have to be unanimous.
No. So I want him to end the sentence within a timely manner, and there's no need for that edit. Because if they do this, then
Because-
to this specific end doesn't
And
follow.
that really is part of the operational definition for flexibility, right?
Yeah.
Tell us why you
don't
struck
do
in
it.
a timely manner and added economically and marketably feasible
Yeah.
to.
Well, the way the document, you have to consider all of the changes in entirety, right? Like,
Yep.
in the document, it's saying, go do it in this time frame, and, it's getting very specific. So I'm striking
You
out,
can take out
right?
the specific time frames.
But if you say, if I hear what you're saying, right, if I sort of identify, hey, like, let's make it based on what the market sort of dictates. If you're just saying a timely manner, is that what you're proposing?
Yeah.
I'm okay with that, and let me tell you why. I'm okay with that because that's vague.
Right.
Great. You
And
guys
I-
all like that? Put it back in the.
Yeah.
So
I don't, but that's just a
I think
personal.
I think that's okay for
Yeah.
this instance because timely manner could be when commercial is ready.
Right.
Great.
And I just don't think that edit needed to be done. And the way you edited it, I think disincentivizes the rest of it. So we can keep it there. I know it's vague, but I prefer it than what you edited it to.
2.7.
0.1. It was that last phrase.
Yeah.
Okay,
And beyond that, I think.
thanks, Jason. I hope you took your vitamins today.
No, this is great. I'm happy.
No,
to-
thank you. No, this is great, and thanks for
Whatever you want to do.
for working with us.
Okay, where are we at on the timing? Are you guys going to keep the timing of the commercial commercial out, or are we gonna put something in there?
I don't see why we need to have the technical.
I don't think so.
If you want to
They're
put a
invested.
statement in there for the city council to review it, you can, but I don't think we need to. I don't think it's
I
necessary.
mean, I really think that, these guys are investing in building homes and getting people in those homes because of profit. They're not gonna be dragging their.
Do you have in your motion to take out the
No.
clubhouse columns in the land use?
Yeah, because it was
tables and the
taken out
exhibits?
in one part. and we
It
just
was
wanted-
suggested to take out in one part,
Yeah.
and then it was put in. It's the column and the exhibits related to the clubhouse permitted uses.
Oh, I remember now. I put it in because I wasn't sure if you wanted it out. So yes,
Yeah.
take it out of both. Because
It's in two
the
places.
document reads appropriately if you leave that column in.
Right.
So that's why it was edited. Okay, thank you. I
Okay.
remember
Yeah.
So
Okay.
that
We
makes-
just
So take
wanna
both out.
Okay.
Strike both of them.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah. So do you got your list?
Yeah.
You can just
I'm
recap it
gonna go over and get this.
before we make a motion.
Yeah. Also, there's a typo like O1, it says tails where it said, should say trails. That's the same exhibit that has the W on the one.
That's all right.
It's running out of energy at the end. So.
Yeah.
So the 4,000 square feet, keep the 649 and think of creativity.
I don't think we
Floodplain
do we even
area.
need to mention that. That's already.
Yes, because it's been taken out, we need to include
Okay.
it.
Hold on.
Yeah,
So we're
but I love the idea of the flexibility in that floodplain area. I think that's.
to keep
that's
it. To
fantastic.
keep the 4,000. Is that what you're saying?
No.
Yeah, we're talking about the number of units.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The number of units won't change
Right.
if we put it down
Yeah.
to 3.
That- those-
The density, sorry.
Crosses out
Flexibility
here
regarding
can
the
change that,
commercial.
and we need to keep
Oh.
that 649.
Yes,
The
but very.
flexibility regarding the
Hold on. So I'm okay with them decreasing the lot size to 3,000 square feet.
Same.
Is that?
Rita?
Yep.
Yeah, I'm fine with it.
Or recommend the
Negotiate
city council look at it.
I think
Here's,
they-
well, yeah, because
I
if we
think
wanted
they
to
need
be,
it designated for them. They can have it be common space, but have it be attributed to the residential area. We don't have any 4,000 square foot lots currently in our city.
That was one of the big
Yeah.
beefs when we originally talked about it.
Yeah,
I mean, going down to 4,000 square feet is.
4,000 is
Get
small
this
enough.
motion, and then you can see who's in agreement with that motion.
I think we need to keep the 4,000.
Okay. All right.
There's still some flexibility.
I think
I'll
the
let
flex-
you make your motion.
I think the flexibility with the square footage needs to be discussed with the city council. So however you want to word that.
Let's keep it at 4,000. If they want to amend it further, they can. We're just giving them a recommendation.
Okay, great. Motion away.
These guys want
We have other items.
Yeah. Okay. I motion that we forward a positive recommendation for ordinance 560 and ordinance amending and restating the master development agreement, MDA, for the Ben Lomond Views Subdivision subject to Harrisville City Municipal Code and other staff and agency requirements. I would also like to forward this positive recommendation along and have the city council take a look at the following. That we keep the 4,000 square feet as it currently stands, that we keep the 649 as the total number of houses, unless by chance you can negotiate with the government regarding the floodplain and have that changed. I also forward along the recommendation to sponsor and support your flexibility, specifically towards the northern and eastern end of the development, while keeping the southern eastern border consistent as it stands now. Along 89, that there be a choice, either the berm fence, that we specify that in the MDA, that we keep a commercial component in the center and allow for the flexibility to look at other options along 89. That we keep in the verbiage timely manner in 2.7.1, and that we take out the column that includes the clubhouse specifications in the exhibits. Yes. Okay.
I'll second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, good. Motion passes. That was us.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jason.
We send it to City Council.
Okay, we're on to our final.
All right, that moves us on to agenda item number 7, which is discussion action recommend to grant final site plan approval for family promise property located approximately 1105 North Washington Blvd, which has an updated address of approximately 330 East 1100 North. Jenny, can you introduce us to the memo on this one?
Yes, thank you. Commissioners, this is a final site plan review for the Family Promise site plan. We do have an engineer's memo addressing two items actually that he's requesting take place. The final review of this site plan is related to the landscaping plan. And this is the updated landscaping plan for this area. It does have pressurized secondary water service through Pineview in this area. And the developer's engineer is here to answer any questions that you might have. The two items that the city engineer has outlined are to complete the stormwater, the SWIP, the stormwater pollution prevention plan, and file the notice of intent with the state. And prior to construction, we have to hold a pre-construction meeting with the city staff.
Okay.
That's the simplest list I've seen for an approval in a long
Yes.
time.
It's great.
Which is great.
It's very clean memo. Those are the ones we like. And so if you have any comments or questions for the engineer.
Do you want?
Anything else? I think this one's ready to go. So.
Anyone else want a motion? I'll motion.
Go ahead.
A motion to grant final site plan approval for Family Promise property located at approximately 330 East, 1100 North, subject to engineer's memo dated October 3rd, 2024, Harrisville City Municipal Code, and any other staff or agency requirements. Anything we need to add?
Oh, I'll second that. And all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, it passes. Congratulations. Final approval.
Exciting.
Yep.
The community look better.
Moves us on to agenda item number 8, which is discussion action recommend to grant preliminary and final site plan approval for the Furever Friends property located at approximately 1755 North, 750 West. Penny, can you introduce this one?
Sure. I'm actually going to turn this item over to the contracted planner, Brandon. He's got more detail on this one.
Okay.
This property is located also on 750, but it's further down the road than where we were talking earlier this evening. It used to be the old, I believe it was a nursery site, and it's now a place where they house animals.
Cats.
Furever Friends. We've done our review, engineering review, and planning and zoning review, and we do have some comments that need to be addressed with the plan, but it does fall within the city's zoning, and it complies with what they're wanting to do. They're just wanting to add onto a building to create some additional space, and I believe that it's this. Is it this building? Yeah. It's this building. They're not showing it on that site plan.
No, the site plan doesn't show the modifications.
But yes, it's that building, this big building coming off the side to add some restrooms and things, and a little concrete pad for parking.
Okay.
So,
It's just not
sewer and
showing.
water is already there. No,
No,
excuse me.
that's what they're adding.
We're adding, we've gotta add the
They're
water.
adding a sewer line, they're adding bathrooms,
Um, yes.
which is the main concern on the first one, is that it's gonna be a private sewer line until it reaches the road, and it's gonna be pumped because of the elevations.
Elevations low.
So that's the.
So it'll be a forced sewer out to the main, and then it'll flow. once
So
it
that
gets
whole
to the
thing will
main.
be private.
Well, it already is, but yeah, so
What?
this connection here is all gonna be pumped because of the elevations, so it's, their sewer line's gonna have a pump until it gets to the side of the road, and then it's gonna be gravity through. So they've gotta add an asphalt patch after they cut into it to connect to the sewer line. They've gotta show that and make sure the visitors can get access to the building and that all that works. Yeah, so they're adding water and sewer to the back building. And the pipes are all of the memo, if I understand that right.
Yes, very well stated. We're also requiring that they provide an asphalt, a section of asphalt from the edge of the current roadway to the right-of-way line,
Okay.
so that they aren't tracking any dirt or debris out into the road for stormwater purposes.
Okay.
In addition to that, the property, maybe one of the issues that have to be dealt with is the property was recently sold, and so we need to make sure that there is an easement that goes along the, so that property, this home, includes all of that. And in my research, it doesn't look like there's been anything recorded to provide access or easement. So right now, it's just there. So we've got to get some kind of an easement, access agreement, something on that property so that continues to have access through that lot.
May I comment here?
Please.
I did go
may.
down to the recorder's office today,
Okay,
and the easement is there.
okay, it's not showing up on the county record, so that's why.
It was the county.
Okay.
Maybe on
Well, I'm
the
glad you
paper
got it,
copies.
because I asked for it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I will, let me scan it and send you a copy. Yeah, and there are a couple other things I need to comment on.
That's all.
Okay. It's there.
That's all I have.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It sounded like this gentleman right here would like to come and address this.
Would you like to come up and share more? Please do.
Yeah, I'm Steve Lefevre. I'm doing the project management for Eleanor. So the property did sell. We do have an easement that's recorded.
Okay.
And the items on the sewer line that were mentioned in the engineer's comments, we'll add those. It's just a lateral line off the main sewer line, and then our pressure line goes into that.
Okay.
Not a big problem. So I believe we've got everything pretty well covered. When we did the project meeting, the fire department did say the current access looked good to the building.
Right.
Didn't see a change to that. We get a review and that in writing. And we do have water on the property. I'm not sure what we need Bona Vista to do, but we'll talk to them.
Bona Vista is the culinary water, so the drinking water that goes into everything.
We have that on
Okay.
the premise, so,
So just
yeah.
make sure they're okay with you changing the pipes.
Yeah.
But it should be. Justin, you got something else?
There is a meter to the building already.
Okay.
Anything after the meter that they do is self-regulated and self.
So as long as they're on that
jurisdiction.
meter line, they're good?
So they're fine.
Okay.
I think that was just a little oversight on that, just
All right.
making sure.
Okay.
He wasn't quite sure if they have
Perfect.
a
So if
dedicated.
they already
meter,
have
so
that, then they're good on that, so there's
Yeah.
nothing else on that one. Perfect. Okay. I don't think I have any
That's
other
all I have.
issues.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Appreciate that additional information.
Anything else? Any other concerns? Okay. We want to go for final approval, right?
Sounds like
Or
it.
do we need to do preliminary and final? Okay. When it has a slash, you could do either. Alright, well, I'm going to make a motion that we grant both preliminary and final site plan approval for Furever Friends property located at approximately 1755 North, 750 West, subject to the city engineer's memo dated October 3rd, 2024, the Harrisville City Municipal Code, and any other staff and agency requirements.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. That was all of us. Passes.
Thanks, everybody. I know this has been a long meeting. For those of you that have stayed, thank you for your interest and concern.
Now let's move to public comment. This is your opportunity to come up and give us 3 minutes of any topic you want to tell us about. Your opinion. We're here to listen.
Commission related.
Well, technically it doesn't have to be.
That's true. That's true.
Anyway,
It is a public meeting.
please
I know.
tell us your opinion.
Hi. Hello, my name is Iris Gates. I'm a realtor and I live on 651 West 2550 North. So that 750 project where the commercial is being asked to be put. My only comment is we have to consider sidewalks in that area. I missed the whole hearing, so I'm not entirely sure exactly what was discussed. From my understanding from comments and stuff, that there will only be sidewalks in front of that building. My thought process on that is, not too long ago, we had a little kid that was walking from the school down the street, down 650, down in front of our road, heading around the corner, and there was cars coming through and there was no sidewalks. So I would presume that people would be coming from the other commercial properties, going down that road to maybe go to whatever stores are gonna be put in there. And there's just no safe way to get to there. So that's just for public safety. That's one of my main concerns for that, and those roads are just not structured for all of that traffic that would be coming in and out from that area. And that's just, wanted to share my opinion. Again, I wasn't here to hear everything, but just something to consider when planning, if that should be something to go there or not. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Appreciate your comments.
Hi. I'd love to echo two things this gentleman said. I'm sorry, I don't know who you are. Brett.
Who, me?
No, yeah.
Harold.
Harold, I want to echo a couple of things that he said. One of them is the frustration of, we come to a public hearing and we say our thing, and then you guys close the hearing, then you discuss and you jog something in our minds that we would like to have spoken, and we are not given that opportunity. I know this is state law. I know you've got this set up according to state law, but that doesn't help. And I don't know what we can do about that. So that's one thing. The other thing is really the water. The gentleman did not really appropriately address the stormwater. He said there's going to be an underground retention basin underneath the parking lot. That's a flood place right there. There's a really high water table there. Right now, the storm sewer that exists is an open ditch that is blocked at 89. Water cannot go underneath. There's nowhere for water to go.
we had drought year after drought year, that's great. What if we get a flood year? There's gonna be problems. There's gonna be water problems there, and he did not address that. So, I feel like we're kind of jumping the gun with all these things. Pleasant View has to say, yes, we'll do this, yes, we'll do this, yes, we'll do this. And why are we approving anything before we even know that Pleasant View is going to approve it? To me, that is in reverse order. And I know that what we are being asked to do is to change the zoning on that piece of property. That's in accordance with the current future land use map. That thing can be amended. That we don't need to change the zoning on that property because it is currently pink on the future land use map. We don't have to do that. I've spoken to many of the residents on the west side of 750. Not one that I have spoken to wants to sell their property and have it made commercial. They all want to stay there. They all want to live there. And as Angie mentioned, back when the land use map was being done, it was asked that that be left as A1. So, thank you.
Thank you.
There's no other public comment. Close the public comments and move on to commission and staff follow-up. Before you get into that, I just wanted to mention on the sidewalks, that's a development by development thing, and 2550, as we mentioned in the hearing, is a Pleasant View road. We have no control over 2550. So
750 is.
for what that's worth, 750 is a Harrisville road, and as developments come in, they'll get sidewalk in front of their section. We're not going to force anyone who's not changing the stuff to put in sidewalk. Anyway, as far as those go, as far as the water issues go, changing the zone on the property doesn't do anything with the water because it's not a building yet. When they come back for the building with a site plan, then we'll address all of the water and make sure that gets taken care of. That's a separate stage from where we're at right now.
But we hear your concern.
And as far as what we can do to open to the public, most of the issues we deal with are multiple meetings worth. The golf course has been years worth. And we do the documents for it that we all got to go through were up a week ago. So they are available in advance for just as much time as we go through it for everyone else to see it and go through it. That's my one recommendation for everyone is to go to the public meeting notice website and subscribe. You'll get an email every time there's something there, and it'll have a link to all the documents that we get. So you can see it, you can review it, have more time. That way those things that get discussed can be jogged a little earlier. It wasn't really our packet.
Yeah. Can we put a reminder in the upcoming city newsletter about where people can subscribe to that? I don't know.
Probably, yeah.
I think that's a great
Put
idea.
a notice
Doesn't
that we
remind
have
people.
meetings, so
Right.
we could put a
But if
notice
it's
up
in
at
the
the
link.
top that says, go here to subscribe, and it'll send you an email
It's under,
every
it's the
time.
bottom of the calendar.
So
Does it say on the calendar?
It is.
Okay, I couldn't remember.
We just need to direct people to it.
Yeah. Reminders don't hurt.
Anyway. Jenny, you have other follow-up for us.
Well, I was going to introduce our contracted planner, Brandon Green, but you saw him this evening and he'll be helping us as we can have him help with these developments as they come in since we're kind of picking up speed on that.
Right.
And just a report, good news from the state, we received notice this week that we are compliant with our moderate income housing report for this year.
So we don't have to change it.
That is good. Anytime we can get compliance on those
Yeah.
issues, so that's all we have for staff.
Okay.
Thank you for your hard work this evening.
You know, wonderful. I did another hour of training this week on town centers and city centers and such from the Wasatch Front Regional Council.
Excellent. If you'll just send in, if you got a certificate or just.
Get a certificate, but I've got emails related to it, and I did a survey at the end that I took a screenshot of for the completion.
You'll
So.
just you send those in to us.
Okay.
responsibility to do workshops.
Any other follow-up? Anything else? This is the time to have the end conversations before we have this meeting.
I think we gotta change the agenda.
You want to change the agenda?
Yeah.
To do
Because,
what?
because what we did is we blindsided the meetings. We gave them an opportunity to comment without giving them enough information to know what they need to comment on. And some of the things that they brought up would have been resolved had we,
You want to have a presentation before and
yes.
a longer
Yes,
presentation?
let's, instead of doing the
Like,
card
technically,
let's do it.
technically that's
So-
in the agenda as it is. We just need to make sure we're giving enough time to
Yeah.
introduce
So
it.
as we look at the agenda,
Maybe
we can
have the
move things
developer
around if we
or
need to, whatever.
the applicant come up and introduce some things before, so that way they're more aware of what's.
That's up to your discretion, how much of a presentation you want before or after. We've done it both ways and we get feedback.
Either way,
It's
right.
like-
Yeah.
But we're happy to accommodate whatever the commission
I
requests.
think you gotta give them as much information up front as possible.
Well, another thing I think people forget, because they don't do this as often, is that, like tonight, we were discussing amendments to the MDA, not the whole project as a whole. And a lot of our comments were dealing with the project as a whole. Not that they can't comment on it, but even with the, yeah.
Right, and they just don't understand. And
Yeah.
that's part of what we need to help them
Well,
understand.
even with our sidewalk and path issues, yes, there are issues in Pleasant View City, but it's super complex. I was on a safety committee a number of years ago with police officers, with UDOT, with multiple principals and administrators, all from 750 West to 400 East. This was years of research and studies and so on and so forth. And it's extremely frustrating, aggravating, and complicated. And so, and not everybody knows that. Like, we would all love to have 750 and 2550 with curb gutter and sidewalks along all the sides.
We're not going to mandate every resident go put sidewalk
Oh,
in.
no. And that's what it comes down to. But again, I think maybe a point of information, because a lot of people think it's just on the city, or that it's not.
It is and it isn't. And we've actually upgraded the classification of 750 West and applied for funding. So we have received future funding for portions of it, but we've made 3 phases of 750 West. So we will be receiving funding in the phases to develop that out and to put those improvements on that road. That is based
I did know
on-
750 was having some. 2550 is always a hot issue because of the city lights.
But we've done the same.
So we're gonna do our part in our city.
So now there's more
Yes,
sidewalks
which is so
related to that.
awesome.
Yep.
Yeah, and we just recently completed our walkability
Like you can
audit.
audit it.
Yes.
My wife was going in tomorrow for something related to it. So, anyway.
I know, it reminds me I need
Can I
help
ask
with
you,
work stuff too.
Jeff? Yeah, I mentioned to you one time, walkability.
You know, can I chat with you in just a minute?
concrete.
Let's just formally end this meeting and then I will come and chat with
If
you.
there's nothing
Let's
else
send
for us
everybody
to
home.
discuss,
No.
well, I will make a motion that we adjourn. Can we get a second?
I will second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.